Hello, and welcome back, I guess, to the I'm So Tired podcast, the podcast where we're so incredibly tired that we don't even do the podcast for a while. Joining me as usual is my good friend Islam Dubai. How you doing, my
Oh my god,
friend?
I just been asleep for like 2 months or whatever. I don't know, man. I've been away, but we're back. We did it.
Sure, I guess we're here. We exist still.
Still.
And our last podcast was like the only serious episode of the podcast as well, so we haven't really done one where we just talk about the dumb pop culture bullshit that we have in the title um, for a while.
Yeah, we're back. We needed some dumb culture, dumb pop culture
Yeah,
bullshit.
I guess there
Honestly,
wasn't much going on, to be fair, for a while, I suppose. Um, so
I mean, I
uh,
got super into Final Fantasy 14. We could have
y-
easily filled like 4 episodes of me just talking about
that's
that game.
true. That's true. But then it wouldn't have been a podcast. It would have been just you, just you talking. And sometimes I would go, yeah, that's very interesting. That's
Yeah.
cool.
And if you are tired, just remember that this show is sponsored by Final Fantasy 14. If you go to freetrial.finalfantasy14.com/I'm so tired, you can get an additional 3 months of subscription if you buy at least the Stormblood expansion. So,
That's not true. Um, and if that gets us banned from Twitch or
I
whatever,
don't know. This
uh,
is a joke. How in a video game?
in a video, oh shit, saved it, saved it. Um, so yeah, we could spend a whole podcast just talking about the games that we've been playing because I played a bunch of games actually, more than I usually do as well. But
And
we're
I got
not
a
going to do that.
PS5, so that
Yeah, he
happens.
got a PS5. I played a bunch of games, but we're not going to do that. We're going to talk about Marvel bullshit. So we are going to review both Black Widow and Loki season one. I guess it's
Yeah, it's
that's a
season one.
starting point for the discussion that we'll have later. But what do you want to start with, Loki or Black Widow?
I
I
think
feel
we
like
should
Black
start.
Widow we'll have
Yeah,
less to say, kind
Yeah,
of.
Black Widow is a perfect starting point because I feel like Loki sets so many things up for the future, so that will
Yeah,
open a perfect like segue into speculation. Even though Black Widow kind of does the same at the end, but not as big as
yeah.
Loki does.
Okay, so
So
shall we
yeah,
start for Black Widow?
let's start with Black Widow.
Okay, so you can start. Let me know just your general thoughts on the movie. Did you watch it at home or?
Yeah, so the thing
Oh
in
yeah, you
Denmark,
told me about
yeah,
this actually. Sorry.
yes, but in case the listeners don't know, the thing with Denmark is that a lot of like the cinemas in Denmark have boycotted the movie because it's coming out on Disney Plus day one. So they're like, hey, we don't want to support this practice. If you want the movies to come out in theaters, you can do that, or else you can fuck off. Basically, is what the theaters have said. I've been going like back and forth on like my own take on how I feel about the way they've gone about it, and I think at the end, one of the biggest issues with the Danish cinemas, this is actually based like it's not even an article I've read. It's just a headline. I was like, this makes
Mm.
sense to me, so I'm just gonna do it like everybody else does on the internet, just regurgitate whatever I've read in a headline. But
Yes, that's how the discourse works.
that's how the
Yes.
discourse worked. But they talked about how that one of the big problems with actually no, I think Joe read a bit of the article. Now that I think about it, but one of the big problems is that the cinemas aren't showing the movies people want to see is like one of the
Hmm.
big problems. A good example of that was back when, and this is me talking now, back when, what's it called? Straight Outta Compton was about to come out. It wasn't supposed to have like a Danish release. So people actually had to, in Denmark, like started campaigning to get it to come to like cinemas. They went to like cinema and say, we want to watch this movie because
Hmm.
people love NWA. Surprise, surprise, I guess, but
Yeah.
people love NWA. So and they actually got the movie to play, but it's because fans wanted it, and this in general has been a big problem. I think like they don't really show the movies people actually want to see. It seems like
Hmm.
it's like almost some dumb comedy you've never heard about from
Right.
America, and the big blockbusters, obviously, because those are the movies people want to see. But like the Danish cinemas don't really have it in them to make demands to something like
Mm.
Disney. And I think if they just showed the movies, people would have gone to the cinemas instead. Like I know 100% I would have watched it in the cinema. And I think watching at the cinema, I would have enjoyed it more. I liked the movie, don't get me wrong. I actually really liked it, and I think I would liked it even more if I watched it. So, but that's where we are. But general
Right.
thoughts, I enjoyed the movie. You wanted me to continue, or do you have
Yeah, sure.
something?
Just
Yeah,
just tell me what you think of the movie, just in general,
I'll
before we start
actually.
talking about plot points and stuff.
For me, it was. I think Black Widow is probably the Marvel film I had the least amount of expectations for. Like I was like, it's a Black Widow movie. It feels kind of weird for it to release after Endgame, and it takes
Right?
place after Civil War, and I have to
Yeah,
get back to that like Phase 3 mindset. And it felt like a Phase 3 movie, honestly. Like
it
it
really
felt
did.
like
Yeah.
the vibe was almost like Doctor Strange, but without the
Hmm.
magic, I felt like.
Yeah.
So that was weird, like getting back into that mindset of, oh, it's that kind of MCU movie. But
Hmm.
because I like the MCU, I guess. I like the vibes and how it feels. And because it's been a while since we had a Marvel movie, I liked it. I think if this released, though, after, like,
Hmm.
like in 2017 or whatever, I think I might have liked it less because I would feel like, this
Why so?
was. Because it felt like just like. So at some points, it felt like just another Marvel movie, that if that makes
Yeah.
sense. And it felt like a lot of this character, like this character arc that Natasha goes through in this movie, wasn't actually needed. Like I felt like her character arc did come at a close in Endgame.
Hmm.
Like she's a character that's more or less fully fledged by having these small scenes throughout all these movies. And was this movie necessary? Not really, but did I enjoy it? I did. I love the like '90s movie aesthetic. Like I kind of felt nostalgic watching it for multiple reasons. Like one, it's been a while since we've gotten one of these, and two, like yeah, like the intro itself. I remember looking over to Joe being like, when they play the Smells Like Teen Spirit cover, and with all the shots of them being
Hmm.
kids and taken to the Red Room, and I
Yeah.
was like,
It's very early 2000s
yeah,
in a
very
in a
early
good
to
way.
yeah, very early 2000s, late 90s. I was like, this is kind of cool. I kind of like
Yeah.
this actually, because and they didn't do it at, like they usually do it at the end of the movie. They didn't. They just went straight to
Hmm.
normal credits. I was like, I like it. I like the vibes that the movie gave. And I like the characters a lot.
Yeah.
What do you think, like general thoughts then?
Uh, for me, first of all, I did get to watch it in the cinema, which felt nice. Despite the 10-year-old child behind me who would not shut up throughout the film, but that's expected, I suppose.
Is it?
Um, it's not. It's just very rude parents who didn't teach their child to shut up. But what will you do? But regardless of that, it was cool. Like going back and there was actually people there. Um, it was all socially distanced and masks on and all that, but I mean, it felt safe. But there were people there, so it was kind of exciting to go back to see one of those. And I've been a little uh up and down on the idea of how much MCU there is
Hmm.
now. Like I do feel like this year that it's a bit too much, just like the amount of stuff that they're going to release. But having not seen an MCU movie since what Far From Home at the cinema,
Yeah.
it felt really cool. Like when the intro started playing and you saw the big Marvel splash screen at the beginning, like it did feel, oh shit, like things are getting back to normal, and it's exciting to be back here. Um, as far as the movie, I really liked what they did with the character, and I do agree that to some extent her arc was implied in the other movies, because you kind of knew this idea that she had this dark past, and that she was slowly learning how to just trust other people and become part of a new family or whatever.
Jacob's daughter, the hospital fire.
Yeah,
Yeah, like they kind of
they
spelled
already
it
they
out
already
in the first
mentioned
Avenger.
that,
Yeah, they mentioned that.
but
Like you don't
I
need more, but sorry.
that's true. But
Yeah,
also, I
but
feel like for me, if it had come out after Civil War, I agree that it would have felt a bit like just another Marvel movie. But I also think that it would have added a little bit of gravitas to what happens to her in Endgame. Um, just because it feels in Endgame, it feels like there's the classic. I love that movie, but
mm,
it does feel like, oh, she dies, but we have to move on, and then Tony dies, and we do the big scene at the end. So
Because fuck Natasha, am I right?
yeah, it was like, I don't know, did you guys forget about her, or like,
Yeah,
and if the movie had come out earlier, I guess they could have introduced the character of Yelena before, and she could have been part of mourning her in some way in that movie. I'm not sure how it would have shaken out.
mm,
And I understand that Yelena is more a character that I'm going to see in the future of the MCU rather than in Endgame. She wouldn't really have had a role, but I don't know. It just feels kind of weird to, as you said, go back to post Civil War. Like, if you're gonna do the movie, do it when it makes sense, and if you're gonna do it afterwards, it just feels kind of weird. But that being said, I really liked what they did with the characters. I really liked the family dynamics that they did. I thought most of the action was actually really good for the MCU because it felt a little
yes,
more grounded.
yes.
It felt like they were kind of going for that early 2000s Jason Bourne and the first like Daniel Craig Bond movie type vibe. Um, Although that being said, Joe just appeared, a little
Joe
ghost
just,
in the
I
background.
tried to move so I could cover her, but it didn't work. So that's gonna
Um,
happen a lot. I think whenever she goes up to do something, we're gonna see glimpses of her
that's
in the
fine.
background.
It's okay.
Sorry, yeah.
Um, but
Also,
I
she looked straight into the camera, which just made
she
it
did.
funny.
Yeah, it was kind of scary to be honest. Like she just kind of appeared and this thing with I only barely saw the glasses. It was pretty good. The
Oh,
audio listeners are gonna love this part.
yeah, the audio listeners are gonna be like, what the fuck are they talking
And
about?
we're not gonna explain it. So
No,
if
you
you
can
want to
watch
know,
the
just
movie.
watch the
Yeah.
video. Um, I did feel like the third act went just a little too big for me. Like it's the classic Marvel thing where at the end you just have to have the big flying explosions.
I was thinking about that, and I feel like, first of all, I agree with the action. Like the choreography was,
Yeah.
like it was fun to watch. Like
Hmm.
when she and when Natasha and Yelena meet for the first time, they're fighting over the thing, and
That was
she
great.
grabs
Yeah.
the thing and
Hmm.
hits her over the head, and like that stuff was really cool to me because I felt like, oh, they're using the environment. They use the curtains later to choke someone
Hmm.
out, and it works, and it's pretty cool. But yeah, by the end, like it does veer a bit into CGI bullshit territory, but
Yeah.
I feel like this was better than say like WandaVision's
Oh yeah.
CGI,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
because I could tell what was going on still. Like even though it was kind of, wow, this is kind of extreme,
Yeah.
especially for we've never seen Black Widow do something this insane as
Yeah.
like Black Widow jumps out of this fucking flying fortress with no parachute and jumps from debris to debris and
Yeah.
lands and survives. And I'm like, holy shit, that makes no sense.
Yeah, that's crazy. But like, and it's not even that. Like, I don't even mind that. It's more for me like, did we need
Can move
another
more
flying
over here.
fortress? Like, did we need in the MCU another flying fortress, or would it have been cooler if this guy was kind of like in Jason Bourne and just hiding in some
Like
weird
hiding in
government
plain,
office
yeah,
and
in
and
plain sight.
and like there's a government office that has a secret room, and in the secret room there's this whole red room thing. I feel like that would have been a little more grounded, but would have made the whole movie feel a little more cohesive. Just like that final thing where, oh, actually, there's another flying base in the sky, just like Shield. But I
Every,
guess
yeah,
neither Shield nor Hydra knew about this, and it's just kind of there, and
it
it's like,
just kind
okay,
of, it's like, oh,
cool,
this is why nobody realized. It's because he's been in the air all this time. It's like, I don't know
sure.
how
Like,
that works,
oh well,
but
he was
yeah.
hiding inside a cloud, so I guess
That's why
fine.
they never caught him. I felt
So that
like,
I think
yeah,
that's the part that I didn't really love about the movie, but as far as what they do with the characters, I think it was really good, and it was exciting to go back to an MCU movie. As much as I
hmm.
love the show, there's something special about going to the cinema to see one of these.
And also, I know you just enjoy watching something and then it's over, and then you're like, ah,
Yes,
I don't have to commit to this for the next fucking 7 weeks or whatever.
yeah, there's a
Yeah,
conclusion.
there's a
Yeah.
conclusion. Yeah, and this one does have a conclusion because we know how. Because one thing I really don't like, I've seen people on the internet again, in the pre exclusive Twitch pre-show. We talked about how I talked about how like there's no nuance on the internet, like,
Hmm.
and people like talking, and especially you talked about how gamers specifically, the big G's,
The big
um,
G's, yeah.
big G's, they tend to have like some of the worst movie opinions. And one
Oh
opinion that I
yeah.
kept seeing was, "Oh, this movie is gonna have no stakes because we know Natasha's gonna die." Which for me is like, that's not what stakes are. Because like, could you
No.
imagine? Could you imagine watching, I don't know, the fucking Hangover movies and be like, well, I know they're gonna make three of them, so there's no stakes in this movie. I know these guys are gonna survive this hangover
Yeah.
trip. Or watching, I
It's
don't know,
like,
Ferris Bueller and be like, I know he
yeah.
survives at the end, so there's no
Or
like,
even like, I don't know, Harry Potter 4. Well, you know nothing's gonna happen to him because there's 7 books. But that,
yeah,
like, that's not
that
how stories work.
that's not how
Like, yeah,
stories work.
the protagonist 99% of the time is gonna be okay. That
Yeah,
doesn't mean that's not the stakes.
that's not, yeah, exactly. Those aren't the
Yeah.
stakes that we should be talking about. That the stakes are, what's gonna happen to the Red Room, or are there
Hmm.
gonna be more widows, and what
Yeah.
about this villain? They're like question and answers, and this the stakes are even like, what about Natasha emotionally? How she's gonna
Yeah.
cope with the fact that the only family she ever knew besides the Avengers, like which is her found family,
Hmm.
is a fake
Family. Yeah.
is fake Soviet family that was planted in America.
I love
Those
that
are,
intro.
yeah,
Like the intro to this movie was really good. Like
yeah,
seeing them leave and have to go, like, I don't know, I guess they're running away from Shield or the FBI or whoever it is, and they're these Soviet operatives, and then they meet up in this what, at sea or something. Oh no, it's on an island of some
yeah.
sort.
It's Cuba.
I guess it's Cuba. Yeah, I
Yeah,
guess it would be
Cuba.
Cuba. And like right away, he becomes less of a loving father because at that point he's going back to the old character of Red Guardian. I thought that switch
Yeah.
was really good.
Yeah, where he was like, "Yeah, fuck this. I'm gonna go be
Yeah.
famous superhero now." It's like, no, you're not.
No.
So,
And I
wanna
love how
go?
his character specifically, who throughout the movie he just keeps talking about how he fought Captain America, but it's not true.
I kept going for like, did he fight someone at least? Like, what is he talking about? Does he think he fought Captain America and it was someone else? Like his character. Let's
Maybe, I
go
don't know.
through like his character, like David Arbor, right? That's the actor's name, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, David Arbor, the dad from Stranger Things, as he's known
Yes.
colloquially.
Yeah.
David Arbor, I think his character, Red Guardian, Alexei, was great. I
Hmm.
enjoyed every single scene he was in
Yeah.
because I felt like he really played off this washed up secret Soviet agent who was supposed
Hmm.
to be this like hero for socialism or whatever, and that never happened, and he got thrown
Yeah.
into jail instead. Who's also like, you can really tell like his past mistakes haunt him. Like he wants to be a dad for these girls and be a family man.
Hmm.
He really
It just doesn't
believes in
know
his
how.
heart. He just doesn't. He's a bum. He's a fucking idiot. He has no
Yeah.
idea how to. He keeps making these speeches because he thinks that's what being a dad is all about. It's like, daughters, welcome back, and like, fuck, we don't like you. And keeps making the funniest speech he makes is when Yelena is like sad because she's like, the only family I ever knew was fake, and
Hmm.
they don't even love me. And he's like, tells this story about him going ice fishing, and he grabbed, like, he had his hands down by the ice water, and then my dad make twilight on my hands. And she's like, please shut up. I was like, no, I have a point with this. Also great.
Yeah.
Let's keep casting non-Russians as Russians because it's funnier. I'm just saying it.
Yeah. I guess
The fake accent is always funny to me.
it is
I'm
what it
I'm
is. Yeah.
sorry, Russia, but just like Italians, we're allowed to make fun of you. So
It's true.
yeah,
It's
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 like
true, unfortunately.
British people, Italians, Russians. I feel
Are
like
the
those are
three
the big,
groups you can make
yeah.
fun of. Yeah.
Americans, they're like a joke in of themselves. Like we don't even have
Yeah,
to
you
make
didn't
fun
even
of
have
them.
to. Yeah, you
They're
didn't even
like,
have to
yeah, it's
do
almost like it's
anything.
kicking down making fun of Americans at this point.
Um,
Moving
yeah,
on.
I thought his character was really good, but I think the standout of the movie, and this is not a very interesting take, 'cause I think everybody has said that, is Florence Pugh. I really liked
Hmm.
her.
Is that how
I'm
you pronounce
happy.
her last name?
Yeah, Florence
Florence
Pugh.
Pugh?
What
I've
do you
said
think?
Poe all this time.
Poe?
Yeah,
No, it's
Florence
Florence
Poe.
Pugh.
Pugh.
Pew
Okay.
pew. Yeah,
Pew
I
pew.
like that.
Oh, that's funny.
Um,
Okay.
oh, she was great. I thought she was super entertaining. The physical stuff that she does is cool. Like you can tell that some of the stunts she was in it, and she was doing them, and that helps. I thought her character was really funny as well. Like you can tell, like she's this girl who's been an assassin her whole life, and as soon as she snaps out of it with this weird red cloudy thing that kind of
Science.
counteracts her psychic, what was it? It was like whatever. She was
Yeah.
mind controlled, and now she's not anymore thanks to this red thing.
Cloud.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Vapor.
whatever. And you could, as soon as she snaps out of it, she's like, "Oh, I kind of want to be normal, but I don't know how to be normal." So it's like, "Oh, do you like this vest that I bought?" And it's like, it's really just a tactical vest with a lot of pockets, but to her, it's like, "Oh, this is cool. I bought my own clothes for
And it's so
once."
sad. Just like this is the first thing I bought when as soon as I got free meal was this vest.
Yeah,
And then you found out it's the vest that Natasha's wearing in Infinity War, which is like a sweet like
yeah,
connective tissue to that movie. I was like, oh,
hmm
I like this a lot. No, the vest scene, like every scene with like I'll talk about how just a sec. Are we still live? Can you check? Cause Streamlabs just froze on me. Like I don't know what's going on. Like the thing is, Streamlabs at the bottom has frozen,
mm,
and now Joe's legs is up and wait, let me see. Yeah,
yes. Ethan says we are live.
we are
So
live. I've okay. My
is it not
chat is.
recording?
I don't know. I think it is. I
Well,
think.
we'll find out.
Uh,
Uh,
I need to. Yeah, I'm gonna. Yeah. Okay. Just keep continuing. Just continue talking. You were.
I'll
Yeah.
keep continuing.
Keep
We were talking
continuing.
about Yelena. Keep on
Yelena.
keeping
Yeah.
on.
Keep on
That's a
keeping
Death
on.
Stranding reference for you.
Yelena. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. My turn. Yeah.
Yes.
Yelena. I was talking about how David Arbor for me was like one of those who like stole the show in this movie. Like every scene he was in.
hmm
Uh, but that's kind of a lie because every time she was talking, like she
hmm
was stealing the show. I feel
Yeah.
like Florence Pugh, Yelena, is a fantastic addition to the. Oh, now
hmm
it's normal again. It's still recording. Okay,
Cool.
cool. It's still recording. I know it
We did
just
it.
updated on its own. Okay, cool. I think she's a fantastic addition to the MCU, and I
hmm
really hope we get to see more of her and more of her character. Because one, the MCU kind of needs like the spy character still. I feel like
Yeah.
it's a void I'm gonna miss with Black Widow because I feel like Scarlett Johansson did a fantastic job. Like even so, they even gave her an executive producer credit in this one, which surprised me in the
Mm.
intro. But yeah, Florence Pugh for me also she captures that she's almost like she's the little sister, you know,
Yeah.
and her entire character is that annoying fucking little sister that just like wants to be like her big sister and thinks her big sister is kind of cool, but also
Yeah.
keeps messing with her throughout the movie. Like we were talking about before, like one of the funniest jokes in the movie, and it's like a running gag, is the poser joke, and
Yeah.
she's like. Oh, and the first time she does it, it's so funny. You're like standing in the store, she's like, "What is that thing you keep doing?" And Black Widow's like, "What thing?" And she goes down and does like the Black Widow pose and starts whipping her
That's
hair.
doing the hair. Yeah.
Just the
It's
hair
great.
like this. You keep doing this whenever you fight. Why do you pose? And it's funny because if you look at every single movie where what's her face
Black Widow.
Black Widow is in, she
She
does
does it.
that, and it's and now I will keep thinking of that scene. Like she has that one pose she keeps doing, and it's so funny to me how like they incorporated like that into the movie and into like making her a part of the character and how this little sister character is acting towards her big sister. She's like, "Oh, you this," but you can tell like she thinks it's kind of cool though
Yeah.
until
And
she tries it herself. Like, yeah, no, that was disgusting.
yeah, another good moment. Yeah, I think their interactions throughout the movie are the best part for sure. Um, and just the family thing that they do. Even like, Rachel Weisz doesn't get a lot of screen time, but I think she's a cool character as well because you can tell she's trying to be cold,
Yeah,
but she actually grew to care about these
Straighten
people.
your back. You're gonna stop slouching.
Yeah, that's
Like,
true. I'm actually doing it myself. So,
yeah,
but yeah, you can tell that she's trying to be cold. She's trying to be this person who doesn't care, and she's just working for the Red Room. But then Natasha kind of breaks her down, and then they work together in the third act. She doesn't get to do as much as David Harbour, who's kind of the big performance in the movie.
yeah.
He's the entertaining performance, but she's still, I think, really good in the context that
I
she's
think
given.
yeah. In the context you get, I think every scene with her is like she's interesting because
Hmm.
she when we first meet her, she's like this loving mother. Like she is
Yeah,
really very much the loving mother character. And by the end, she like when we meet her when they're like years later and the girls are adults now and they come back and like I said, she's distant, she's cold, she's the one who's made these experiments that have been used on her daughters as well.
yeah,
Which is pretty messed up when you think about it. When like
yeah.
Yelena's like, yeah, that thing you did to the pig, that's what they did to me. And it's like you really feel bad for I'm covering the fucking legs.
It's fine.
Oh, yeah, it's okay. I'm gonna sit like this now. This
It
has
is
been a
what it is.
chaotic podcast so far, and it's
I
fine.
mean, it
Like,
has to be. It has to be.
it has to be like
Um,
we've been tied for way too long.
Way too long. Yeah. So yeah, if all the family stuff is really good, I do think the villains of the film are a little weaker, comparatively at least. Like the movie is very much about their family dynamics and kind of them wrestling with their past and all the stuff they had to do for the Red Room. But I don't think the Red Room gets as much attention as I think it could have.
Yeah,
Um, and even the fact that they use Taskmaster in the movie, it kind of it's kind of confusing. You don't know they connect initially, and then at the end you see it, I think it's a cool twist.
do you want
But
to talk about Taskmaster in general right now? Get
sure,
into because we have two villains in the movie. We have Dreykov,
yeah,
who
hmm
is yeah, he's there. He's it's Harvey Weinstein. Okay, that's the
yeah.
character.
He's
That's
he's the. I think the movie is very much referencing this idea of this person who basically does human trafficking of in the movie they're assassins, but I think they're kind of referencing this idea of women being taken from their family and being used
yeah,
as in with prostitution and human trafficking and stuff. I think
yeah,
that's what the movie is getting at. I, I do wish that he was introduced sooner, and his like the Red Room is something that's there, and Natasha chooses to go destroy it, but it doesn't really interact with the emotional stakes of the movie and the family
yeah.
dynamic at all. It just kind of shows up at the end.
Yeah, she's
I
like,
just
we have to put an end to it. And she's like, oh, we
yeah
did. And okay, I have to put an end to it again, I guess, because I thought we ended this
yeah.
with her and Hawkeye, apparently. Are you okay?
Sorry, there's a helicopter flying over my house.
What an episode today, man. We got ghost legs popping up. We got helicopters. What an episode today, man.
Oh God,
No, I feel like
keep
for me,
going.
Dreykov himself, I like the idea of the character, if that makes sense. I
Yeah.
just wish there was both, like you said, more focus, because it feels like this movie is trying to juggle different things. They're juggling this
Hmm.
whole like family dynamic, which is the part I think works the best, is
Yeah,
whenever they are family.
for sure.
Because like I remember Joe telling me like the thing that she wanted most out of this movie is like I want to know that one dinner scene in the trailer. How do we get to that point where Natasha's at and we got to meet her
Mhm.
family? Like, what's that about? And I feel like that is where the movie succeeds for me, is when it has those family dynamics and we get to meet probably the coldest Avengers of all the Avengers.
Yeah.
To be honest, like the one we know the least about. Like we only have hints in Age of Ultron. We get hints of her past in the Red Room, and she was trained to be an assassin, and
Hmm.
suddenly she joined Shield, and Hawkeye helped her. And we get a bit of that in this one, but we finally get to know like everything about her. But Dreykov for me is underutilized. Like he doesn't
Hmm.
seem like a threat at any
No,
point. Like even only when they do the whole pheromone thing, and he's like, "Oh yeah, you
which is
there's."
absolutely ridiculous
It's
as
super
well. It's
ridiculous.
like
Like even in the universe where
sure,
like we have like multiple timelines now and whatnot, that's still
yeah.
that's a bit ridiculous, isn't it?
That's
But
that's stupider than like anything in Loki. Like anything in Loki is more believable
But
than that.
I was like, okay, sure.
Yeah,
Uh,
sure, it works, I
sure, it
guess.
works, yeah, sure. I didn't hate it. I was like, okay. I guess that's how this person will act. My camera is now acting weird. Wow, what a podcast we got going on today.
It
Weird.
is what it is.
It is what it is. Who
Yeah,
cares?
I don't even think he's bad. Like, I don't think he's a bad character. I think as a character, he's interesting because like everything with the Red Room, I think is interesting to be explored. But they kind of throw it at you at the end, and the way he talks, it seems like it's this massive organization that is all over the world, and we have this network of people, but doing what? Like, I don't
Yeah,
understand what his goal is. Like, sure, you have all these people,
because
and what you train them, and
it
I don't know.
seems to me
Are you for
like
hire? Are you a
I think
mercenary?
I
But
think
you
he
were a
wants to
communist
have
before. What? I don't.
I think he wants world domination, but he also knows that he can't beat the Avengers, and that's like his whole thing, and that's why he wants to control Natasha.
Yeah,
Because then he
I
has like a
guess.
foot in with the Avengers, and then he can
Hmm.
kill them. I get that seems to be his goal. Like,
But like, where?
yeah,
How does that distinguish him from like Hydra? It
it
doesn't.
doesn't.
Like, it doesn't.
Yeah,
It's just another
they
one.
might have just as well just said, oh, he's another like Hydra sympathizer, and it was like, okay, he's Hydra. That's
Yeah,
more than enough
exactly.
sometimes. Like
Yeah,
I don't need all
I feel
my
like that
villains
would have
to
been.
be
I feel
like
like that
deep,
would have been
but
easier.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, honestly, that would have been easier. It's like, oh yeah, he wasn't actually he was like be saying something like, oh, he wasn't actually part of the Soviet Union. He was a double agent for Hydra, and
Mm.
that's why he's still operating or whatever. And I think that would have worked. Like just like
Hmm.
one line of dialogue would have made him just a bit more interesting. But then we get to meet Taskmaster, which is a character I feel like most people have met either in the Spider-Man game or the Avengers game because he's the boss you fight like 800 times in that game because there are only two
Right.
bosses for some reason, but fuck that game. But yeah,
Yeah.
Taskmaster, which is a fantastic name. Let's start with that. Fantastic name. What did you think of how they handled Taskmaster? Now, again, I know you've
I
played Spider-Man, you haven't played Avengers, so you
I
don't
have
know.
played Spider-Man, but I haven't played Avengers. I
Yeah,
don't know anything about Taskmaster outside of he can copy your moves, I guess. But in the movie, like for the longest time, I thought it was a robot. I thought it was just the suit. I thought they
yeah,
were gonna open the suit, and it was just like the suit is doing this, and that's why it can compete with like a super soldier.
yeah,
Because like I get that he can copy, the moves that Red Guardian is doing, and so he can counter everything. But like Red Guardian should be way stronger than she, I guess,
yeah,
is, and it's kind of like, oh, okay, I don't really understand how this works, but fine. Like, still, his fights were really cool. Her fights were really cool.
mm.
Anytime she showed up, it was threatening. But
Also, I
it
understand like the
but it also kind
confusion
of
with
feels
the
like
I also understand the confusion with the gender because I saw like whatever Taskmaster was fighting, it actually had a man in the suit,
right.
and it seems to be that they changed who was in the suit because sometimes you could tell like Taskmaster is a woman based on the
Yeah.
walk,
Yeah,
especially
yeah,
when
yeah,
she
yeah,
was
yeah.
copying Natasha. You could tell this is a woman, but when she was doing like the Black Panther thing, for example, like I was like, did
Mhm.
they just put Black Panther's stuntman
Stunt
into the
double,
suit? Because like it
maybe.
seemed like it, because the moves
I
felt
mean,
like watching it. It was pretty
I guess
cool.
that I guess that's a
Yeah.
cool idea if you're gonna have a character that copies everyone. But um, again, I thought she was threatening every time she showed up, but it's the same thing. Like I wish why was she like it didn't really set up I didn't really understand why she was doing what she was doing until the end where you realize it's actually Dracov's daughter who
Yeah.
Natasha thought she had killed but was still alive and mind controlled or whatever, but you know
Yeah, and mind control. Then I guess when they thought they killed her, it did something to her brain. So now she's like, she keeps
hmm
like taking everything in, and that's why she can copy things, which is weird, but it's comic booky enough where I just
it's
accept it. Yeah, it's like
that's
one of
fine,
those.
but like
Yeah,
also at the beginning of the movie you can see the suit and it looks like the glasses on the suit are doing that as well, so I guess the suit is enhancing her
I
natural
understood it as
abilities
if, like,
or
I understood it as if when they put the USB stick and the USB drive in the back of her neck, I understood it as if they were like showing her
hmm
info, like, oh, you need these moves to counter this
Right.
person. That's kind of how I understood it. Like, oh, here's some moves you gotta learn.
So they're just teaching us the uploading stuff into her like Neo, so she
Yeah,
knows
yeah.
kung fu.
She knows. I
That's
was just about to make that joke. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. It's the Matrix. I was
Great.
also laughing. Like she was
I'm
legitimately
down.
just watching Civil War when we first meet her.
Yeah.
Just like it
Yeah.
was like that's the shot from the movie. I've seen that shot. She's just watching Civil War. Do you think that just watches the entire MCU? Like,
I'm sure that's how it
let's
is. And
watch.
then she moves on to other franchises, and she's like,
Yeah,
"Oh, I guess you can learn something from the Nolan Batman movies as well."
yeah. She's gonna do the Bane walk.
Yeah, that's a good
But
movie.
for me, at least, my I think my issue with Taskmaster, and you even said it actually, it's just like I think having a mind controlled villain just takes
Mm,
away from like I would have enjoyed more if she had like legitimate interactions with Natasha being like,
yeah.
"Oh, you made me into this monster. You took everything from me. I don't even care about my dad. I'm just doing this because I need to kill you. I'm learning all of this just so I can kill you."
Hmm.
And I feel like that would have been like just give her a bit more motivation because I feel like that was my issue with Taskmaster. There was no motivation, and
Yeah.
I'm not a comic book purist. On contrary, I actually really like when the MCU deviates from the comic books like this because the Taskmaster in the comic books is a hilarious. He's so funny. Like every line from it is a joke. Like he doesn't take anything seriously. He just, hey, you can hire me. I'm a merc. And he hates Deadpool because Deadpool is his like a rival, I guess, in the business. And that's kind of Taskmaster in the comics. There's nothing
Yeah.
like super interesting about him. He's a funny dude that you can hire if you want to kill someone. So at one point, I even think the Avengers hire him to teach like the next generation of Avengers or whatever. Like, oh, let's hire this Taskmaster dude because like
Sure.
he's not
I mean,
really
that works
evil.
out.
Like he's just a merc. So like this
Hmm.
is a big change. Is like my point. This is a big change from the source material, which I don't mind. I just wish they did more with it. And they didn't kill her at the end, so maybe
Mm.
we're gonna see more with her later on. Kind of like how we're gonna see
I'm
Abomination
sure
in
you will.
Shang-Chi for some reason.
Oh God, yeah. I have no idea how they're gonna get in there, but
Like,
sure.
oh, Abominations. Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, he was a thing 10 years ago.
Yeah, in
Not
that
even,
one movie, that's
it's
kind of canon, but
it's
it's
like,
like,
isn't it in canon? It was like 15 years ago he became Has he just been street fighting for 10, 15
yeah,
years? Like, okay, I can't wait to see. It's gonna be like a quick scene with him and so, but let's be honest. He's not gonna
yeah,
have a big role then.
he's gonna be there for a second.
But overall, for me at least, I really like this movie. Like, don't get me
Mhm.
wrong. Maybe in the intro, like when we first started, some of my general thoughts, I felt negative. I enjoyed the hell out of this movie. I felt it was tons of fun. It had the laughs. It had some cool fighting, and it gave Natasha some, I wouldn't say needed character development, but some cool character development. I enjoyed.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I liked it too. I'm not like super high on it. I don't think it's
Yeah,
one of the best of the MCU, but it's
yeah,
a good mid-tier Marvel movie. And I think we've said before on this show, like the mid-tier Marvel movies are still good. Like
yeah,
there's a base level of just this is well made, and the characters are always the character stuff is always good in MCU movies. So even if the surrounding, like even if the action gets a little too crazy, or if the villains aren't great, like the stuff they do with the characters is good enough that it keeps your interest in the story regardless.
yeah,
That's like, and I think this movie does it as well.
yeah.
Um, so
I
yeah,
agree.
I I would have it around the mid tier
Yeah, and for me,
Marvel
like
movie,
the
but
mid
still good.
tier, I always think Doctor Strange when I think the mid tier, honestly.
Yes,
And I feel
Doctor
like it's
Strange, Ant Man,
yeah,
you know,
yeah. And I like all those movies. Like you say, I
yeah,
was like, I should rewatch that. Doctor Strange, I should rewatch.
yeah,
I like those movies. Like that's the thing, and it's important for me to like preface. Like these are good movies, but they're not like. It's not like I went in expected something like Spider-Man: Homecoming or The Avengers or Guardians, but yeah,
still good.
this was what I wanted it to be as well.
Mhm.
Now, you want to talk post-credit scene?
Oh yeah. So I guess post credit scene brings the movie back into the I guess present of the MCU, but it doesn't even make sense to talk about present and past anymore because now they're going to be time traveling all the time and there's multiverses and shit. So, but I
Oh,
guess the canon present of the MCU where Yelena shows up at
I
Natasha's
mean, just
tomb.
quickly, I know we're gonna get into details with that later, but there's
Yeah,
still gonna be a main MCU. Like, there's gonna
I
be like
hope so.
that
I really hope
timeline.
so.
I don't think it's gonna be as complicated as people are fearing, but we're gonna get into that
Okay,
because
awesome.
I think I know what they're trying to do with this. But yeah, sorry.
Um.
Um,
So yeah, Yelena shows up to Natasha's tomb, and we get what I think was supposed to be the introduction of what's her name, the Baroness
uh,
Valentina something,
Valentina, yeah, Baroness
whatever.
Valentina, yeah, yeah.
Julia Louis Dreyfus,
Julie Louis Drivers.
from hit TV show Captain America and the Winter Soldier shows up, and she basically points Yelena in the direction of Clint Barton, Hawkeye, saying, "Oh, this is the guy that caused her death." And so she's kind of manipulating her into becoming a villain for Hawkeye, or she's going to seek out Hawkeye to take him out because she wants revenge for her sister, because she doesn't know exactly what happened to her, I guess.
Can I say really quick? I love this like reverse Shadow Nick Fury thing we're doing right now
Yeah,
with her
it's
making
cool.
she's like making her own team, and like we
Hmm.
already got like the Shadow Captain America, now we got the Shadow Black Widow basically with Yelena, because
Yeah,
I'm so excited to see what they're gonna do with that character now, especially with this scene. Like, but yeah,
there's, there's another helicopter,
there's
so
another
I don't know what's
helicopter.
going on.
Oh no!
Shit,
Please, Hugo, stay safe. If the searchlights come on, just duck,
I will hide. Yeah,
and
if
then
you see me
inshallah nothing will
disappear,
happen.
yeah, that's at least I'm live. You know, if like somebody comes in through the window and abducts me, you at least know.
Yeah,
You know,
I mean, look,
Ethan
this
will
guy
know.
did
You
it.
you and Ethan.
Even in chat is like, yeah, this guy did it. This Italian SWAT dude with a
Yeah, sure.
mask on.
Well,
uh,
um,
we
but
were
yeah,
talking about
Julia Louis
future.
Dreyfus.
Yeah. Shadow Avengers, all that.
Mhm.
For me as well, I, I feel like it's pretty cool. Like how much like they're really doubling down on the fact that the Disney Plus shows are MCU as well. Like it's because this is leading into what seems to be the Hawkeye series, right?
Believe so. Like,
That's
I
how I
guess
understood it.
I
Because
guess
that's
she has to be at this point a villain in the Hawkeye series, because where else would that story play out?
yeah,
And it makes sense, and it feels like the TV shows. Okay, it's interesting because like they're kind of doing this double areas of the MCU. There's the not street level but earth level kind of earthly super spy action part of the MCU where you have Captain America and Bucky and Black Widow and Clint is part of that as well, and he's going to be part of that story. And so US
hmm.
Agent is also being recruited by Julia Louis Dreyfus, and that's one part of the MCU. And then you have the esoteric magic
I saw a
multiverse
tweet that
stuff.
made me laugh. That was basically that, but the description was more there are two MCU movies. There are those with trippy visuals where you get high and watch them, and then there are those where they wear baseball caps.
Yeah, but I
That's
mean
basically the
that's
MCU.
basically what it is, because like one division is leading into Doctor Strange and Multiverse of Madness, but also Loki is leading into that part. So it feels like
Yeah.
that's a section, and then there's the Earth section, and
And
then I
for
guess
some
there's also
reason,
space.
and Spider-Man is also leading into that. Oh yeah, there's the space section as well. We can't
Yeah.
in the end of one division with what's her
Mm-hmm.
face, Monica,
Monica
and
Rambeau. Yeah.
Rambo, and they're like, oh, you have to go visit Nick Fury. He's up in space. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
we have
Does
space
that as well.
stuff.
Yeah.
So we have a
Earth stuff.
yeah, and we have the multiversal weird stuff,
Weird
time
stuff.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We'll see how it goes.
and I
But
like that
it's
because
cool.
it's cool that they're like separating like all those three things just a bit, just for a
Mm-hmm.
while, like having them like breathe a bit before we get like the big crossover again where Jason Bourne shows up with Harry Potter and whatever. So that's like
I mean, if Disney keeps buying IPs,
they might
that
as
that could
well.
happen.
That could happen. um but yeah, you're right. I didn't even think about the fact that it seems like they're building towards like the Secret Invasion Disney Plus show, which is like the Nick
Yeah,
Fury Skrulls show.
yeah.
Uh, and then they're like, doing that's the space stuff where
Hmm.
Monica Rambeau's gonna show up, but she's also showing up in the next Captain Marvel movie, which is just called Marvels,
Right.
because
Yeah,
Miss
because
Marvel
like
is in it as
maybe
well.
she'll have to do with Miss Marvel as well. I mean, since Captain Marvel was part of the space stuff in Scrolls, maybe they all lead into each other to some extent. I'm not sure, but
Yeah,
it's just interesting to notice
and that's
how
and
they're
I feel like
separating
and
things.
Guardians of the Galaxy 3 is gonna be its own thing. Like, that's
Yeah,
not gonna tie into anything. That's gonna be the
I
end of that storyline.
Guardians
Yeah.
it has so far been its own thing the most. I
Yeah,
think where they're like, oh, they're just in space doing cool stuff.
yeah,
I
they're just
guess.
hanging out,
Yeah,
going through father problems, just like everyone else in the MCU.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
the Daddy Issues series. Are you excited to? Do you want to see more Yelena? Then do you want to see
I
her
do, I do. I think her
become the
character is really
next
cool.
Black Widow or whatever?
I feel like she'll be a villain for a bit, because she's being manipulated again. Which I guess is a shame for her because she's been manipulated her whole life, and now this other character shows up and she's going to be manipulated again. So she'll have a chip on her shoulder whenever she finds out. But
Then her and Hawkeye gotta talk it out, or else she's gotta kill him. Maybe that's gonna be the end of him.
maybe that's the end of the Hawkeye series. We're just Hawkeye dead.
Yeah, it's like
Ah,
one. Yeah, because we gotta have like two Hawkeyes.
yeah.
Plus, he's not gonna like. Do you think it's gonna go by Ronin in that, and we're gonna have the Hawkeye just to differentiate them? You know, he
I
was
don't know.
Ronin in Endgame,
I feel
which was
like
weird.
the the fans pay more attention to the naming conventions than
Yeah,
the movies do. Like even Black Widow. Oh yeah, they're all called widows, but we're just gonna use our first names really in the movie. Like in the movie,
yeah.
they call each other Nat and Yelena. It's not really. They're not
And
really
nobody
too
says, okay,
fussed with
Black Widow. They only really
Black Widow
call,
shows up there.
yeah,
Yeah.
they only really use the code names whenever they're in action as well.
No.
Except for like
So
Steve, like they call him Cap because it's funny.
yeah, they call it because like well yeah, but it's even Iron Man. They usually will say Tony. Like it's it depends on the situation, but I don't think it matters what like whether she becomes the next Black Widow or she's just Yelena and or she's the White Widow or
Oh,
whatever you
that's
want to
why I
call her.
made the air quotes as well, like
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah,
type
exactly.
character,
But
more like, yeah.
yeah, exactly. I think she's gonna fill that type of role, and it'll be cool. I like her. I didn't expect like going in. I was like, oh yeah, but like we're done with Black Widow. Let's just have a new character that feels new, and she's just not the same character again. And she's not like she has the same skill set, but her personality is quite different. Even though she looks up to her sister and wants to be like her, but her personality is kind of different. She's a little more jokey and but in her own way as well. I saw a review talking about her where it was like I like that she has a sense of humor, but it's not the same sense of humor of every other character in the
Hmm.
MCU. She's kind of weird, but
Yeah,
in a
yeah,
fun way, and
yeah.
I think that's good. I think they're adding different personality types to the
They
MCU, and which
they
is
also
always
need
good.
to do it, especially with like the female characters of the MCU, because they do have a tendency to be a bit more on the serious side, and
Yeah.
I think that's kind of like a side effect of the um what do we call like the strong female character
Hmm.
trope of the 2010s, which I
Yeah.
think maybe kind of misunderstood what was the point of having like a female character. Is like they
Yeah.
still wasn't treated as equals, but now they were just put on a pedestal. They were like, oh, they're so much better than everyone else.
Hmm.
Nobody, we don't take chat, but I'm gonna answer Travell. Y'all still talking about Black Widow? Yeah, we're finishing Black Widow up actually. We're just at the end of Black Widow.
Yeah.
Before we move on to Loki.
Yeah. But I think we said all we have to say about
Yeah,
Black Widow actually. So good movie.
yeah, good movie. I
Excited
liked
to
it.
see
Yeah,
more of Elena and whatever happens with
whatever
the other
happens, it's
characters.
gonna be exciting. Yes.
Yeah.
Let's move on
Loki.
to me and my two friends, boastful
You and your
Loki and classic Loki, Arab Loki.
Arab. I guess I'm Italian Loki.
You're
With a
Italian
British.
Loki.
I do have Tom Hiddleston's accent, to be fair.
Yeah.
So kind of. Okay, Loki. Where do we want to start with Loki? Because my initial take with Loki is I I wish they would have told me it was season one going into the show. So getting to the end, I felt initially I was like, oh, this is very interesting and cool, but also I don't feel like I have a lot of closure on all the stuff that I cared about.
Dude,
Because like,
quickly. Judge Renslayer goes through a door and it's never mentioned
oh,
again.
gone. Like,
Gone.
but even Mobius, like I feel like the whole
Yeah.
show has been building up to Mobius, realizing he's a variant and going back to his life to some extent. And like, I honestly thought the post-credit scene was going to be Mobius on a jet ski. I
Yeah.
really did,
Yeah.
and it would have been great. But that's not what the show is doing because it is a first season, and I felt like the ending felt a little weird to me just because I didn't know it was a first season, and I
Yeah.
initially was like, oh, I guess this whole show exists to set up Kang and
The
who's not
multiverse.
even
Yeah.
named, and it's going to be in Multiverse of Madness in Doctor Strange. I guess that's where we
Which
continue the
is like
story. But
everything is setting up. Like even me turning on my computer today, I was like, "Whoa, is this a setup for Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of
yeah,
Madness?"
pretty much.
Everything is a
But
setup for
like
that movie.
knowing that there's a season two, I find it almost hard to completely judge the first season because like that I really liked it. I think the
Mm.
designs that they use are really cool. I think they finally choose a visual style that isn't just
Yes, that was actually one of the
generic
things I
flat.
want to talk about. The visuals, for once we have a sci-fi
Yeah.
thing in the MCU that actually looks like cool sci-fi. Because
Hmm.
the only other sci-fi thing I remember from the MCU is the prison in the first Guardians of the Galaxy. And general
Yeah.
Guardians of the Galaxy does have like some of the more cool sci-fi stuff.
Guardians is
Yeah.
the only one that really does. I
Which are
guess
like,
Thor Ragnarok too to some extent.
yeah, it's colorful.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, like they have, but sometimes it can also be forgettable. Like look at
Hmm.
like Captain Marvel. One of its faults for me is the space stuff is so boring to look at.
Yeah.
Like it becomes interesting to look at once we hit Earth, and it's like, oh yeah, this is why we're watching this. This is cool.
Cool.
But
I
when
like the
she's up,
90s, but
yeah, I like the 90s.
yeah.
But when she was in space, I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
this is kind of boring to
Yeah.
look at. So for me, at least, I'm glad they kind of figured a cool aesthetics style with having this almost like Hanna Barbera '60s
Hmm.
vibe going
Yeah.
into this with Miss Minutes and all of that. And for me, that works a lot.
Hmm.
It works so much for me because this is exactly one of the like this show fixed two of my criticism of the MCU. One, the bullshit third act, which
Yeah.
they kind of have here, but it
But in
works
a different way
in a different
also.
way. And two, the aesthetics, the
Hmm.
sometimes kind of boring aesthetics work like the aesthetics work here. So I'm glad you brought that up because that was like one of the most important things for me in that show
Hmm.
is like how cool it looks because you can see like even people are cosplaying stuff like online people are cosplaying stuff people are referencing like the things like I even saw like at one point I think it's in episode 2 there's this lady who's typing on a keyboard and we see the
Mm.
close-up of the keyboard and people are like oh you can actually buy that keyboard there's a keyboard that looks exactly like it for your PC like if people are doing that aesthetically you're doing something right if
Yeah,
people want parts
for
of that
sure.
universe in your home you're doing something right so no I feel like this show for me like points wise might be my favorite actually of the three
Mm.
Disney Plus Marvel shows so far.
I
And I'll
think
explain more in depth later, I think.
I think just like again, it's hard for me to really judge how I feel about it considering it's a first season
Mm,
because to some extent like some Julia actually we watched it together and she
mm.
pointed out to me like why does this have to be a Loki show? Like does the fact that it's Loki specifically in this show really matter or is the show
I
more about
think
the TVA and setting up
I think it matters that
Jonathan
it's
Majors.
for me it matters that it's Loki because look at Loki. His whole thesis almost has been like he is this man who's just longing for freedom.
Yeah,
Freedom from control, freedom from his
that is
family
true.
ties, freedom from the. And by the end of this show, he's the one going, maybe freedom is a bad idea. And I
Maybe
feel
that's
like
too much.
maybe that's too much freedom if they're like multiple versions of us running around and they can invade us from multiple
Hmm.
dimensions and like maybe this isn't a good idea. I feel like that what made it so interesting for me that it's Loki specifically. He's the agent of chaos that has experienced so much chaos that right now he's the one looking for a way to fix things and for me that's an interesting dynamic for that character specifically because
Yeah.
his character arc for me throughout this show it's kind of cool. Like
It's
yeah,
him, like it's a similar character arc to what was implied for, I guess, canon Loki,
yeah,
Loki
because
1.
he's a variant. That's something we
Yeah,
have to remember. This isn't the main Loki,
this
and I
isn't
don't.
Loki from Ragnarok.
Yeah, because he's
Yeah, and
dead. Like this is a
yeah,
different character. That's also important to remember.
Loki from Ragnarok, I think, had a similar character arc, but it was implied. Like they didn't completely show
Yeah,
him going from, oh, I'm alone and nobody loves me, so I'm gonna take over the world, to becoming, kind of reconciling with his brother, and then even sacrificing himself essentially for
yeah,
him in front of Thanos. So he goes, Loki in this show goes to a similar arc where he learns how to trust people. Uh, First with Mobius and then with Sylvie, even though Sylvie is himself,
yeah,
which I thought was perfect. The fact that
yeah.
they fall in they well, I'm not sure
They,
if they fall in love with each other, but he definitely falls in love with her because like he's the most
she
narcissistic character in
she
the MCU.
loves
So
him as well. She loves him
it
as
makes
well. Yeah.
sense that he would fall in love with himself to
I
some
think
extent.
I think it was Jackson who said to me, and I think it was so funny. It was like, I can't believe that the famously sexless MCU finally did a real romance plot, and it's a dude falling in love with himself.
Yeah, it's
It's
true.
so funny. It's so funny that they finally went like, "Hey, let's do another romance. We haven't done one since Thor. Let's
Mm.
try again." And they made Loki fall in love with a different version of himself. It's so much him because he is a narcissist. He
Yeah,
really
that
is.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
No, I think
I,
yeah.
I thought Sylvie was great. And my question before was, I understand why it has to be Loki, but I also get, if you're looking at this season by itself, by the end, it kind of feels like, oh, the real point of the season was getting to the multiverse. And it is, because it's not just the first season, it's setting up what the rest of the show is also going to be. And also, I think I read online that Loki season 2 might come out before the Multiverse of Madness, which would be
Oh,
interesting.
interesting.
Yeah, it seems it's early next year, which could
Because
be before the movie, and I would like that, hopefully.
yeah. Well, I know like because that was actually one of the questions I had. That's kind of confusing to me, if you will. Is the fact that okay, I kind of understand how the Disney Plus series works. They're big movies essentially. They're just like
Yeah,
longer movies,
yeah,
mini series that are gonna fill like some of the spaces the movies do. But now having seasons as well, this is the first because I know you've been talking a lot about is this gonna be confusing or are they
mm,
actually muddying it? At one hand, I'm so excited to see more of Loki fucking around in the multiverse, finding Sylvie hanging out with Owen Wilson, and I want more of that. But at the same
yeah.
time, my fear right now is having seasons. Is that gonna muddy things? Is that gonna be a bit more confusing, or is it gonna be like,
I
oh,
don't know.
watching the Thor sequel? Like we have had
Yeah,
multiple Thor movies. Why
but
can't
I
we
don't
have
think it
multiple Loki
is.
series?
I don't think it is because this season of television felt like a season of television. Like it feels like, oh, you get to the end of the season, there's a big reveal, and it ends in a cliffhanger.
Mm,
And a movie would never end like this. Like a Loki movie could not end in a complete cliffhanger like this, because it would be like, oh, okay, then this movie is just nothing happens. But if it's a season of television and then you're going to get a second season of television, then it makes sense for it
yeah,
to end like this. To introduce a character in the final episode is something that a movie couldn't do. Like you can't just bring in this major character in the last 10 minutes of the movie and say, "Oh, I guess we'll see what happens in the sequel." That's not how movies are made. So it's definitely more structured like the other ones are more
mm,
structured like longer movies, but this one is definitely structured like a TV show. And I think it depends when you release the season and how much it ties into other stuff. Like, is Loki going to be in the Multiverse of Madness, the
I
character?
believe I read, yeah, that it's confirmed now. I can't remember
Right.
which media it was though, so don't
Yeah.
quote me on this.
There's
But I
so much
believe they
news
said,
always going on with
yeah,
Marvel, so it's kind of confusing until you get a
because
trailer or something.
yeah,
But like,
because I think
if
the only
Loki's
thing
in the Multiverse
quickly,
of Madness,
yeah,
then the season would have to come before, right? Because otherwise,
yeah.
how do you?
Does that end? And then we have to figure out what happens to Loki now. He's gonna go find Sylvie and make up with her and be like, hey.
Mm,
Maybe you
I
messed
don't
up,
know.
maybe I messed up
We'll see.
by
But like,
killing Jonathan Mears.
yeah, I think he did.
The one who remains, is that his name in this one?
He Who Remains, yeah,
He Who Remains, sorry, yeah, continue. Which
or
is
the
an actual
Conqueror,
character in
or
the comic,
whatever.
just so you know. Like He Who
Oh,
Remains is a separate character in the comics, who is
oh,
like,
that's
yeah,
interesting.
who lives there and then he dies and whatnot. But yeah, he's just
Oh,
an old white guy in the comics, so
oh
and
well,
not
yeah.
cool Jonathan Mears. By the
John,
way,
okay, let's talk about this.
watch Last Black Man in
I
San
know I
Francisco,
have to.
everyone.
I know
There's
I
not
have
just you,
to.
anybody listening. Please, I beg of you, watch The Last Black Man in San Francisco. That movie legitimately made me cry, and it was
Mm,
one of those movies where after it was done, I had to put it down, just not talk to anyone for a couple of hours. It's so good, and his
I'll watch it
performance in
for
that
sure.
movie is legitimately one of those performances that just sticks with you. Yeah, he's great. What a catch for the MCU to get him there,
I
because
I
yeah,
thought it was as a performance. Like even though I don't know, I don't know the comics,
yeah,
so I'm like, oh, I guess this guy who calls himself the Conqueror is like even like I talked about Kang. As soon as I finished the episode, I was like, I went to chat and I was like, Islam, can you explain to me who the fuck this guy is? I have no idea what's going on because like I don't know the comics. I don't know that
yeah,
Kang is this time travel supervillain. I have no idea. So this guy shows up and I'm like, oh, this is a really cool. Like the performance I thought was fantastic. Him, he's so charismatic. He holds his own against Tom Hiddleston and kind of makes them look dumb, which is what
yeah,
his character's supposed to do. And I really like how quirky and weird he is, and he would be because he's like, oh, he's this all-knowing person because he's lived through the multiversal war and he's fixed the timeline by himself, and then he's been alone for the rest of his life.
yeah.
So of course he
And
would
he
be a
knows
weird guy.
everything that's gonna happen up until
Yeah,
this exact moment, where he's like,
yeah,
"Yep,
and he's
I
like,
don't know
oh
what's gonna happen
shit,
now."
yeah,
So what's gonna? And he's excited. He's like, "Are you
yeah.
gonna kill me? Are you gonna? I'm not gonna protect myself.
And I
I don't
and I
care."
feel like as much as he says, "Oh, if you kill me and you bring back freedom of choice completely, then you'll cause a war that will destroy everything." But I also think that he misses that freedom as well, and I think you can tell, like when he doesn't know what's going to happen, he's excited because he's like,
Yeah,
"Oh, finally, I don't have to stick to this thing that I know is already going to happen."
yeah,
So I don't know. Like my opinion on this show, on this season of Loki, kind of hinges on what happens next. Like,
mm,
do they make too much multiverse stuff where there's variants everywhere and it's confusing and I have no idea what's going on, and I'm afraid like that could be a way where they risk losing like the more casual audience of the MCU who's like, I don't know, I'm not hardcore into the comics, but I watch the show and then I'll
mm.
be like, oh, who is Kang? And I'll go watch a video on YouTube where that it kind of explains, oh, this is
Kang
this
explains.
character, this is this character, and whatever. But you don't just knowing the basics so I can keep up.
Yeah,
But like my girlfriend, as I said, Julia, she watched every MCU movie, she watched every MCU show, and she got to the end of this and she was like, oh, I don't know why I watched this because it's like if it's confusing and I'm and I'm afraid like they really have to be good at taking it step by step and keeping you with it as they did before. Because I think the level of insane that they were able to do with Endgame and Infinity War,
mm,
and to have like the fact that the highest grossing movie of all time is this movie about space aliens with time travel and people wearing costumes is crazy.
mm.
Like it's crazy that they were able to get such a casual audience to go into that and
Yeah.
understand what's going on and care about it. And that's what they're good at. But I do think that doing it with both movies and shows, and like you have to be very careful what you do, because if you start going too insane and the shows start introducing these really complicated concepts, and maybe somebody hasn't watched the show and goes into Multiverse of Madness and has no idea what's going on, and I feel like people might feel, oh, maybe I'm lost now. Maybe this isn't for me
I
anymore.
feel like I don't think that's a fear that's like is how should I say it?
Like I hope they don't, because I think they've been good so far at keeping you at stringing you along, even if you don't know the comics, even if you're
Yeah,
not
and I
willing
think
to
they're gonna still
understand
do
everything.
that.
But
I think still gonna string you
I
along
hope
even
so.
if you just watch the movies. Like you know more if you watch the shows. You're like, oh, I know exactly what happened. But remember, like these, like the different movies are gonna have different POV characters. Because maybe
Yeah,
Doctor Strange is just gonna say like, something has happened in the multiverse. We have to go fix it. That
I'm.
line alone can
Yeah,
be like that's enough for somebody who doesn't care, just watches these movies casually and be like, oh, okay, I guess there's a multiverse now. Let's see where this is headed. I
yeah,
don't
and I
think it has to
think
be deeper than that, if that makes sense. Because as you've said, they've this fucking company has duped people into watching a billionaire in a suit fight alongside a space raccoon and a
yeah,
talking tree. And
yeah,
suddenly there's this space god, and Thor, the Norse god, is there for some reason, and
yeah.
we've just accepted it. And I feel like that's kind of what they're hoping, that we're just gonna accept and be like, oh, there are different versions.
Mm,
I see your point, and I get it. Like, I get your point 110% that maybe some people might feel alienated and be like, oh, maybe I shouldn't get into this. But at the
yeah,
same time, who knows? Maybe people will just casually accept it and be like, sure, why
yeah. And
not?
I think there's ways of doing it. Where like even in the movies, like these movies are long. Like every movie in the MCU at this point is longer than 2 hours and 10 minutes.
Yeah,
So you can kind of dedicate 5 minutes of Multiverse of Madness into doing kind of a recap of Loki without directly doing that.
yeah,
But oh, Loki shows up and they have a conversation and you understand more or less what happened, and then you go along with the movie based on that. And so even if you haven't watched the show, you can kind of get what's going on, keep going. And I don't know. So I feel like there's ways of doing that. I feel like they, if anybody can do it, it's them because they've been able to do it up until now
yeah,
better than everyone else. Um,
yeah,
even than Star Wars to some extent. Like even which Star Wars is one of probably my favorite series of all time. I like it more than the MCU, but it when at the end of what's it called, of Solo, Maul shows up. I remember my audience at the cinema being like, "What the fuck? Like this guy was cut in half in the movies with Ewan McGregor. Why is he alive again?" Because like people haven't seen the Clone Wars. You can't expect people to have seen the Clone
I
Wars.
will say that the issue with Clone Wars is it's like Star Wars is for kids. You know, I always say that Star Wars is
Yeah.
inherently for kids. That being
Hmm.
said, an animated series is way more targeted towards kids than a
Yeah.
movie is.
Sure.
So the casual audience aren't gonna watch a kids show. Like I've tried to get
Hmm.
people to watch Rebels and Clone Wars, and they look at me as if I'm fucking insane. Even though some like Clone Wars have some of the best storytelling in Star
Clone Wars is
Wars.
great. Yeah.
Yes, the Clone Wars is so Clone Wars. When it's great, it's great, and when it's bad, it's bad. It's one of those
Oh
for
yeah.
me.
You
But
just
yeah,
got to use Jackson's list of good episodes and watch those.
yeah, just watch Jackson's Clone Wars.
The
uh,
Jackson cut of the
the
Clone Wars.
Jackson cut of the Clone Wars. But yeah, but my point still stands. Like I feel like it's still different here because
Hmm.
these like let's talk advertisement for a moment.
Yeah.
Every time one of these Disney Plus shows comes out with like Loki and WandaVision,
Hmm.
all that, I see like the streets in Denmark at least are littered with posters like, oh, this show is
Yeah.
starting. And people like I talk to people all the time and they're watching along.
Hmm.
Like they're watching these shows.
And they
I
are
don't I
being
feel like
marketed like movies. That's true.
they're being marketed like movies, and I feel like that Marvel Studio slogan itself
Hmm.
kind of takes people off to like, oh, I know Loki, I watch the movies. There's more? Sure.
Yeah.
Maybe that's like enough. I think more people are gonna watch this than Clone Wars, for example, in the
Yeah.
casual audience. Because let's be honest, it's hardcore Star Wars fans and kids who grew up with Clone Wars that watch
Yeah.
Clone Wars.
Yeah. And like it's, I feel like it's the same thing now with Star Wars. Like people are watching The Mandalorian.
Yeah,
Like
because it's live action.
my mom knows about Baby Yoda, and she hasn't seen the man, but
Because it's
she's seen it
yeah,
everywhere. People who care about Star Wars, even tangentially, are watching The Mandalorian
because
now.
it's live action though. I feel like
Yeah.
that's an important thing we have to know. It's because it's live action. That's
Yeah.
why I think people care about the Mandalorian, because it's not a quote unquote kids show,
Yeah.
even though you have
True.
a fucking baby that's cute throughout the entire show. It's a kids show as much as the rest. Come on.
Yeah,
It's a
and so
good show, but
yeah.
still.
Did you see they got like? Did you see Disney got all the Emmy nominations? That
What
was
the fuck?
insane. What the fuck
Dude,
happened?
I
I guess
hope
nothing
like
released last year.
Don Cheadle has to win for Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
No,
I laughed so much
that's
when he and I
nuts.
get like it's like oh guest appearance, but even when I look like at some of the other people, like they had way bigger roles,
Yeah,
even though it was just guest. He his role was one scene where I was
yeah,
like, oh, it's a War Machine. What's he
yeah.
doing here? And he's like, hey, Falcon, you shouldn't have given up the shield, buddy. Okay, see ya. And that's his role in the entire
Yeah,
show.
I guess that's how you get an Emmy nomination, you know?
Even he was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, yeah,
His
it was
Twitter, by the
strange.
way, follow Don
Strange.
Cheadle on Twitter because his Twitter is amazing. He just doesn't give a
Okay,
fuck. He's
I'll do that
so
right now.
funny. He's so like he's quote tweeting people making fun of the nomination, and he's just like, maybe I'll win. We'll see. um, yeah.
But
Just
yeah,
to yeah.
regardless of all this stuff, I still think Loki is really good
Mm,
because it does things that the MCU hasn't been able to do well. It ends with a conversation, for example,
yes.
which I thought was excellent.
That was the
The
second. Remember
acting's
when I
so
said
cool.
two things? The first thing
Yeah,
was
sorry.
aesthetics. The second thing, when I said like big CGI, but we had like the ghost, the smoke monster fight,
Yeah,
which was a good fight, cause like
which was actually good.
yeah,
Yeah.
cause classic Loki, Robert E. Grant, what a
Oh God, yeah.
fantastic performance!
I
His
love that man.
laughing and
Yeah.
craving Asgard and then dying was one of the best things, like top MCU moments.
Hmm.
That scene right
It's
there.
great.
And like I've seen people online complain about the last like episode because they were like, "Oh, this is a slow episode, huh?" And that's what I loved about it
Yeah,
personally. I was
I
like,
like that part.
you
Yeah.
can watch Jonathan Mears talk for hours.
Yes.
You were just having a conversation like, okay, you've made it. It felt almost like a Matrix Reloaded kind of thing. We're like, oh,
Yes.
let's have a discussion about, just like you said, determinism versus free will.
Versus free will. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
exactly the same. And I was like, I for me it was instantly that was the reference that I got. And I get why people don't like that stuff.
Yes.
It does feel a little bit like it's a video game cutscene. But I like video game cutscenes, so
Yeah.
I think it's enjoyable. And I think for this kind of storytelling where you're dealing with insane concepts, it's good to sometimes just slow down and just have some cool exposition with good actors acting with each other, and it doesn't have to be like if the last episode was Jonathan Majors punching Loki in the face and fighting against Sylvie. I don't know.
Yeah, could you
That
imagine
doesn't.
if he
I
was
don't give a
like,
shit about that.
after the conversation, he was like, okay, if you want to kill me, you have to try at least.
Yeah,
And you
and
have to
then
be
they
with.
have a big fight. Like
And
it
it'll be
doesn't.
like, eh,
Who cares?
who cares?
Yeah, I like that. I like that. It as much as it feels a little odd, just because I didn't know there was a second season. So I was like, oh, that's it. That's the Loki show.
For
But
me,
with
the
a
biggest,
second season coming, I think it's a really cool way
for me, the
to
biggest
end the thing.
confusion, for me at least, was the fact that, like with him specifically, because I already knew he was casted as Kang.
Oh, I didn't. Yeah,
Because they made a press release, Marvel. He was like, hey, we got Jonathan Majors or Mayers? I don't know.
Majors, I
Jonathan
think.
Majors. We got Jonathan. We got Jonathan Majors
Johnny.
as Kang the Conqueror for Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania.
Oh,
That's where he
oh,
was
okay.
casted, apparently.
God, I guess. Yeah, that makes sense, I suppose.
Yeah, because they have also like a bit of time travel and weird
Yeah,
stuff
yeah,
going
yeah,
on. And I hope it gets weirder over there because they really need to weird it up. Like I did not
yeah.
enjoy Ant-Man and the Wasp, to be honest.
No, me neither.
That was bottom tier MCU
Yeah,
for
that was
me.
completely forgettable.
Yeah. First Ant-Man, great. So I really hope like if they got him, I hope they have something cool because they casted him as Kang the Conqueror.
Yeah,
While here he showed up as He Who Remains. Because after
yeah.
he
Who's
isn't Kang, this wasn't
no?
Kang. I think that's
He's a
something we also
variant. He's a
of that
variant of that
person.
character.
Yeah. Yeah, because we
Yeah.
haven't met Kang yet. That's something we have to remember. He might play him completely differently, even.
But I kind of hope he doesn't. Like, I
Yeah,
kind
me
of
too.
hope that his personality is the same, and he's just like this weird, like quirky guy who just
Yeah,
happens to want to rule the multiverse, but
yeah,
he's also still this weird guy. I don't want him to be um Thanos. Like
yeah,
the thing with Thanos is that what his character wants makes that performance, that the fact that he's so self-serious, work.
yeah,
But I want this character to be just like a little quirky and weird, and he just kind of wants to take over the world.
yeah. The
But he's still a
multiverse.
kooky guy.
Yeah. Trevor in chat says the statue at the end says he's gonna be killing and enslaving. Yeah, that's that's Kang, baby. No,
Yeah.
I'm excited to see Kang finally because that's one of those characters that I believe actually they just got the rights to because he
Mm,
debuted in a Fantastic Four comic, if I'm not mistaken. So
right.
technically, he's a Fantastic Four villain, even though he's like known as one of the big Avengers villains. Because you
Right.
have these big villains, like yeah, Thanos is one of them, and Kang is up there as one of them, and Doctor Doom is mostly a Fantastic Four villain, but he's like one of the big Marvel villains as well. Like the only way you can up Kang is by having Doctor Doom, personally, if you ask
Yeah.
me. It's like
Or
he
I
does
guess
because I have a
they
con
could
like
do
if you should read,
Galactus again or
but
whatever,
make him an actual person that shows up.
but not make him a cloud. Yeah.
I think if they had to do Galactus, like keep it concentrated on, like don't make him an Avengers threat, make him a Fantastic
Mm,
Four threat, personally.
I don't know.
Uh, like
I have no idea. So.
oh, Fantastic Four, by the way, if they make it correctly, like if they
Mm,
draw inspiration from, say, the Jonathan Hickman comics, I think it would be your favorite MCU thing of all time, actually, because it's
mm,
very much the whole highbrow sci-fi conversations about what does it mean to be
mm.
like if they do something like the Council of Reeds, for example. Now that they have, okay, let me explain. This is a comic book thing. So Reed Richards,
Is
the
it? Is
leader.
it? I'm sorry to say this, but is it like the Council of Ricks?
Oh yeah, that's where they got it from. I think they just stole it from there. But yeah, the Council of yeah, because that came first actually. The Council
Yeah,
of
of
Reeds
course.
is exactly that, where it's like a multiversal like meeting of all the Reed Richards that just meet and let's figure out how to save the multiverse because it's very much
Mm,
multiverse stuff as well. And to answer chat, I want another Fantastic Four movie because I feel like they've been done dirty so much, and it's like one of
yeah.
the best sci-fi things in Marvel is Fantastic Four. It's the best sci-fi thing you're gonna find, and family thing as well. It's kind of funny.
Mm,
To move back, I want to ask you now, Hugo. Do you want to hear my MCU theory, which might include spoilers for the future,
mm.
based on what I know about some of these characters from the comics? Are you interested?
I, like no. Like,
Okay, we're not gonna
I'm
do it on
sorry.
the
It's
show.
just like I don't know anything about the comics, and for me, it's been a fun ride to discover these stories as they happen, and I've kind of been annoyed by Marvel fans online who've been saying, "Oh, this is going to happen because I already know it is because I've read the whatever fucking
Oh
comic
no,
this is
I'm
based on."
just basing it out whatever something they've been doing in every single of these shows, but kind of
Okay,
subtly.
then you can go. Just
Okay,
don't tell me, "Oh, I've read this story and then they're gonna do this,"
I mean
because like,
it's like I've read stories, obviously that's why I
sure,
know
sure, sure, sure.
something as well. But every single Phase Four thing, no, not Phase Four thing, that makes no sense. Let's bring it back. Every single Disney Plus show so far has introduced at least one member of the Young Avengers of the comic, actually. And that's every
Uh,
single Disney Plus show. And I know one of the characters is gonna show up in a few. I'm not gonna say which movie because
mm,
surprise. I'm gonna leave it a surprise. I know one of the characters is gonna show up in a different movie, and the next MCU shows are gonna introduce a couple more members. I know as well based on like what they've said. So
yeah,
I think like we're gonna see a team of youngsters, and like I said, like one of them is like Kid Loki, who's right behind me.
you
If you're
think?
watching, Kid Loki, I think we're gonna see him again. Like for me, especially because like they're distinct members of the Young Avengers, and Kid Loki is one of them. Like Kid Loki is a
Would
member of them, and now they've opened up the
in the
multiverse, so he could just
MCU,
show up now. I
so
guess.
in the MCU, would Peter Parker be part of the Young
I think
Avengers?
so. Yeah. So I
Because
think
he's a
like
teenager still.
yeah. So if you need someone to lead the Young Avengers, be like, oh,
Yeah.
this dude hung out with the actual Avengers. and he's gonna lead like the next generation of Avengers. Because I've seen people have this fear that Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness is gonna write Peter and Spider-Man out of the MCU. I don't think that's gonna happen.
God, I hope not.
There's no way, and here's why I think so.
I know.
From a merchandising part, like they just built a fucking park, like the Avengers campus, and a whole section of that is dedicated to Spider-Man, and it's obviously Tom Holland's Spider-Man. What are you gonna do? Oh, we lost the rights to tear that shit down? Like, I know they have the rights for everything else. There's no way. There's no way that they're gonna write him out.
Also,
they're gonna figure something out. Yeah.
Okay. So we're officially multiversing now, right? Is everything canon? Like, are the X-Men movies canon?
Look,
are the other Spider-Man's canon? Is Venom canon?
Yes, but they're not canon to the
main right.
The way they do it in the Marvel comics, at least,
I kind of know that there's 616, and then there's the Ultimate Universe, and then there's
1610,
right.
And all the universe have like these different designations.
And I think actually in Marvel canon, the MCU itself is one of
199999999. Yeah, it has its own designation. And I think we're gonna still be watching movies, like all the movies we're gonna see are gonna be mainly set in that same timeline. But sometimes you might actually see glimpses of what's going on in the other, like in the multiverse. But I don't think like the multiverse is gonna be like, Venom is not gonna be in the main timeline. Because that's the thing that Sony kind of wants all this. It's like, oh, it's MCU adjacent. This is MCU adjacent now, because it's in the MCU, but not really. This is the way they can do it without being annoying about it, like Morbius. MCU adjacent.
And
like
And I'd be happy with that.
Yes,
I think that's
that
cool.
fixes the issue.
My only concern is this. I hope it's not an excuse for them to just bring back characters and say, well, it's not technically the same guy, but it kind of is. Like, if Tony Stark shows up from the other universe and it's just Tony Stark again, well, technically he's not our Tony Stark, but really he kind of is. I think there is where I hope when they bring in variants, they're different.
Yeah. Like Boastful Loki, for example, or classic
Loki. Exactly.
Like they're so different from, or Cat Loki. Because they are so different.
Or Crocodile Loki.
Alligator Loki.
Alligator, I suppose.
Every time they cut to him.
I saw a tweet the other day where there was like, I think we need, as a society, we need to start saying that alligators and crocodiles are actually the same thing.
Yeah.
I don't know who tweeted it, but it was
Imran Khan, I think, actually was the one who tweeted it. Yeah.
It was good.
But no, for me, alligator, every time like they were talking and they would cut to his reaction, I was laughing so hard because they just treated him like a character, like the rest. Like, I wonder what Alligator Loki thinks about this. He's like,
and when he pours wine in his mouth and he just opens his mouth and guess what? That's great. Yeah.
Oh, Alligator Loki! Shout out to Alligator Loki.
I hope we get more of Sylvie and Mobius. Like, those are the two characters. Like Loki. Of course, we're gonna get more Loki. And I really liked Loki already as a character because we've seen him at this point for 10 years. But I hope we get more of Sylvie and Mobius because I really like those characters.
I think we're going to get more of them as well.
Owen Wilson is always just fantastic. I just enjoy watching him.
Yeah. For me, just to get back to really quick, just to the multiversal thing. Yeah. So just like you said, I think everything is canon, and I think the reason why they're doing it specifically now is like they have an okay relationship with Sony, so they're using Spider-Man in the MCU now. He's like officially part of the storylines and all that. Even so, to the point like he's even part of What If. And I believe there's Tom Holland voicing him because like there were like 4 actors that didn't come back. Benedict Cumberbatch didn't come back. Steve Rogers, was it Chris Evans, Tony Stark, what's his name? Robert Downey Jr. And Brie Larson. I think it was those 4 that didn't come back to voice their characters. So it has to be.
It must be,
Tom Holland voicing Spider-Man, the Sorcerer Supreme, because he's wearing the coat. And
now you're making me think. I'm sorry to cut you off again, but now you're making me think. What if in the MCU timeline universe, it's Tom
Tom
Holland.
Holland is confirmed, by the way. Yeah,
Right, that's
Ethan
cool.
says, yeah.
Thank you, Ethan. And so, what if in the MCU timeline or universe,
Yeah.
it's Tom Holland,
Yeah.
and then in the
The
Sony
Sony.
thing,
Yeah.
we actually get Miles live action?
No, please don't do
That
that
would
to me.
suck.
That would
I
suck
know that,
so
but
bad.
that's
Cause
what I'm saying.
okay,
Like,
I don't want that. I want Miles to be like part of the MCU in
yeah,
one way or another. And he is though. No, he is because we have met his uncle, and it is confirmed
we
that
have. That
and
is
he
true.
says, "My nephew lives around here. I don't want
Yeah,
these.
yeah,
I don't want to shoot a man back in time, or whatever his Donald Glover
yeah.
says," which is a fantastic line. I just want a
I
normal
mean,
gun.
come
What are
on.
you trying to upsell me?
Just please. I wish he
So
could
funny.
cameo in every MCU movie going
Oh my
forward.
god.
We just get Donald Glover now.
As the Prowler.
No more Stan Lee. Now it's just
Yeah.
Donald Glover.
And like, why are you trying to sell me these guns, man? Why are you trying to upsell me? No, like, no, Miles is in the MCU, like canon-wise. I don't think they're gonna do
It
that because
has to, right?
it has to.
But
Because
like, I don't know, because Sony is still trying to get their movies going, and they look. Have you seen the trailer for Venom 2? It was before at
yeah,
the
I
cinema
saw.
before Black Widow. There was the trailer.
I
Oh
mean, it
god, it
looked,
looks,
for me at
dude.
least, it looked better than the first one, but I was still like,
Yeah, but
I
it's
don't
like,
care about this. That's the thing for
yeah,
me.
it
But
just does not look at the same level of
I think
quality.
also what this said is this, that this I think now because of this, they like don't rule out that Venom and Spider-Man might meet now. But I
Mm,
guess it's gonna be like a multiversal thing. They're gonna figure
yeah,
out a bullshit excuse for why Venom is there suddenly, and then they fight, and then he goes back home to the
yeah.
MCU where he
To
belongs,
Venom
I
2.
guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess you can still skip those movies in reality, because like
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't matter for like the main time. Like, do you think Peter's gonna be like, "Oh, that reminds me when I fought Tom Hardy. It was weird." No,
Yeah,
they're
no,
not gonna reference that. It doesn't matter. Like if you want to
it's
watch it, you
fine.
can watch it. One thing I told like Ethan though, like if they really wanted to go batshit insane for like the climax of Phase 6 or whatever, now we're in the future, right?
Mm-hmm.
Kang has assembled his army and they're ready to attack. And suddenly, you see like Tom Holland, he's like an adult now, like that Spider-Man. The man is an adult, but like the character is an
Yeah.
adult now. And he has like his team of Avengers. And suddenly, oh, it's the portal scene again. But this time, who's that? Is that Hugh Jackman and the X-Men from Fox? And did you just bring all the like? Are those the Fox Fantastic Four? Come on over. Let's beat this. Like that's how you escalate if you want to go
Yeah.
batshit insane. Because it's technically all canon now. That's how I'm viewing it. Because they own the
Mm,
rights to all this. That's their way of saying, yeah,
almost.
it's
Yeah.
all canon. And then there's like the main timeline, the sacred timeline, which is
Yeah.
still there. They're just branches off of it now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. We'll see how it evolves, but
Yeah.
it's. I don't know. I feel like I I come off too negative just because I'm scared because I want
And
to be
you
into
have
this.
every right to be. I get it.
Yeah, because
Trust me, I get it.
I want to like because I've liked it a lot so far, so I want to be into it, but like I'm afraid that it'll get to the point where the reason I don't read the comics is this. There's like I'm not good at picking one story and reading that one story. I want to understand the whole canon. And with
Mm.
comics, it's impossible.
Yeah, you have to like pick your battles and just read
Exactly.
whatever you
And
think is interesting. Yeah.
that's just not how I enjoy stories.
Yeah.
So like I want to know everything that I need to know about this story. I get it. It's all there. And if it gets too complicated and I get off it, I know it's fine. Like if it's not for me anymore, that's okay. But so far, I've loved all of it. I'm still excited to see it. Like even when I have doubts, most of the time, the next movie is gonna address them, and so it works out that way.
Yeah.
So I'm still
And I hope
excited
like,
and looking forward to stuff.
and honestly, I hope you're right that it does. I hope you're wrong. Sorry, I don't hope you're right. That would be
Yeah,
insane. I hope you're wrong, and that they still keep it
yeah,
relatively simple. So that I think they do understand the fact that they need to keep the casual fan. Because the hardcore fans, like, I'm gonna watch regardless.
mm,
Like for me, like the MCU is kind of like Hideo Kojima at this point. Like
yeah.
Hideo Kojima could sell me a poop that said a Hideo Kojima
Hideo Kojima
production.
poop.
I'll be like, sure. Here's
Yeah,
some money, I'll buy this.
absolutely.
That's kind of how I am with
Fuck
the
yeah.
MCU at this point. Like I'm in, I'm so in. Like
Mm,
I enjoy it because it reminds me of reading comic books a lot. Like that was,
yeah.
I think I've told this story before, but that was like my take when I watched the first Avengers movie. I went in with the lowest expectations watching the first Avengers movie. I was like, oh, this is gonna be a piece of garbage. There's no way this is gonna stick the landing. No way. And I enjoyed every single like Phase One movie up to that. Like I watched them
Yeah.
in preparation for Avengers, and I was like, whoa, this was just like reading Mark Millar's Ultimates comic. Like that was the feeling I had coming out. It's like, oh, this was
Mhm.
cool. So I hope like
Yeah.
they can keep that feeling while the casual fan watches it and be like, oh, this is cool. Is this what reading comics is like? Yeah, just more insane. Because the comics will always be more insane then.
Of course.
Because
Yeah.
they don't have like a budget they have to think about.
Mhm.
Um,
It's also like you can have 15 different publication going on at the same time, which you can't do
yeah.
with the show.
They
Like
can have like, yeah.
at least even if there's a lot of it of the MCU, there's always going to be one show going on at the time, and then a movie, and then
Yeah.
another show, and then a movie. Like it's never going to be, oh, there's four shows that are all going on at the same time, which I think is the mistake they did before with some of the Marvel TV and to some extent with the DC television, where they
Hmm.
had so many the Arrowverse stuff. They had so many shows that all had multiple season and they all intersected, but then you had to watch them in a certain, and then you kind of lose the audience that
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
I think if they keep it, there's one show.
I
This is
think
what
that's
you're
I
watching
think
now.
that's what they're doing because they want all, but also they're obviously thinking about the conversation as well.
Exactly.
Everybody right now is talking about either Loki and Black Widow, and that
Hmm.
works because Black Widow is a movie and Loki is a show.
Yeah.
And I think that's what they're gonna continue doing. Like, oh no, the conversation is focused on that specific show
Yeah.
or movie or property, and they're like pumping a lot of like the budgets of these shows is amazing. Like
Yeah.
Loki and that's just like Disney in general. Like look at Mandalorian, the budget on that is like it's prettier looking than most movies to be honest, and that's like a TV show. I say TV show with like contempt almost because that's how we've TV shows been
Yeah.
looked at before. But like no, that TVs are movies now. Like they have the
Yeah.
same quality as movies now, which is great because like it's a cool format that they're exploring now with these kind of things. But no, I think Disney, and I'm using Disney specifically, not even Marvel at this, but Disney
Yeah.
specifically wants to space this out.
Hmm.
So when we're not having a Marvel show, we're gonna have like maybe one of the other Star Wars spin-off shows,
Yeah.
like the live action ones that we're gonna watch. And then when
Hmm.
that ends, oh, we're gonna go back to watching a Marvel show, and that's how they're gonna keep you hooked on Disney
Yeah.
Plus, because there's gonna be something to
It's like
watch.
the weekly release is so smart.
Yeah.
It's so like it makes it, and I know it can be frustrating for some people, but it's just so smart for them because you're always going to be
Hmm.
talking about, like, for 6 weeks everyone's going to be talking about Loki. Loki ends, you know. Star Wars isn't starting again until
Yeah.
next week because we have some, because COVID delayed stuff and
Mm.
the Marvel
Also,
shows
this
are
is
ready.
why this like actually
Yeah,
Far From
yeah,
Home
that's
was
true.
supposed to release today.
Yeah, today.
Yeah, today
Is
was
that crazy?
the day
Yeah.
of recording this. The 16th of July
Yep.
was the day that we should have been in the cinema watching Far From Home, but I guess some fucking bat got sick in China. Now we
Oh,
all
No
here.
Way Home. Is it No Way Home?
No Way Home, not Far From Home.
No
No
Way
Way
Home.
Home.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
whatever.
yeah. Which is an
Yeah, but
omnibus title.
it is what it is. I feel like the COVID stuff caused all these shows to be released close to each other, which makes it a little more tiring. But I think starting next year we'll get. I think Disney Plus will mostly alternate between, oh, there's a Marvel thing now, then there's a Star Wars thing now, then there's a Marvel thing, then there's a Star Wars thing, and that'll keep it fresh.
Yeah. And of course they're gonna have like a bunch of other shows, but I don't care. Like I'm not
Yeah.
gonna watch High School the Musical the series or whatever.
High school. I think it's called High School
High School
Musical,
Musical the
the
Musical the
series.
series. Yeah, that's what it's called.
Yeah. Nah.
Uh,
No,
Joe
thank you.
watched the first season. I watched a bit along. Was like, yeah, this is kind of funny, but it's not for me.
Yeah.
She was like, I think she was hungover or something. That's why she watched it. It was like, I need just something going on in the background. Yeah, she
Yeah.
never went back to watch season two. She was like, yeah, this is enough. Um, but yeah, but to your point again, I get your frustration, or like not as much as a frustration as it's like a fear
Concern. I would
almost.
say
A
it's a
concern.
concern
Concern
because
is
I'm
the word.
still
Yeah.
enjoying it a lot.
But yeah, I mean, it's a valid concern to be like, hey, maybe this can be a bit much, but I feel like
Mhm.
they've been very smart, like just like a very smart way of releasing this. Because could you imagine, like, if we were watching WandaVision, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and Loki at the same time, I would have jumped off. I think that's the point where I've been
Yeah,
like, I
that's
can't
too
keep up.
much.
Because, like, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think, and like, shout out to the fact that they actually committed to the fact that these shows are part of the MCU. Because, like you said, like some of the old, like when they did the Netflix Marvel series, like I enjoyed the first season of Daredevil. I think that was the only
yeah,
good thing that came out of that. And Jessica Jones,
yeah.
like it
But
was okay. I liked it, but it wasn't wow. But they kept like the first season that kept referencing the MCU, and it was
mhm,
so weird because at one point they even had like the Daily Bugle, what's it called, like a front page attack of you, and it's the Chitauri, and like and that part it kind of plays into Daredevil as well because there's the Kingpin is going on buying properties that were destroyed
mhm,
during the battle for New York or the incident
yeah,
and it felt so I remember it felt so weird but now after I understood like how Marvel Studios and Marvel operated I understand why that happened though because
mm.
Kevin Feige didn't have as much power as he has now I guess because it was
He
like
didn't. He
no it was
wasn't in
that
charge of that stuff. It was somebody else.
yeah it was somebody like the dude that is in charge of all the Marvel stuff and then
Yeah.
I guess Feige had enough of control like because they were controlling a lot of things. And he
Hmm.
was like, yeah, fuck. And Disney was like, okay, now Marvel Studios is its own thing. And
Yeah,
we can just do your own thing going forward. I think that's
and it
gave
makes sense.
yeah, and it gave the MCU more strength, I feel like. Because you can tell once phase three starts, that's when it starts to get very weird. And I think
Yeah.
that's when, like, they didn't have the influence of the Marvel Committee anymore. Because that was, like,
Yeah.
a big thing. That was, like, the whole Marvel Committee. Which is why there was, like, the whole. Why Josh Whedon left, for example, after Age of
Hmm.
Ultron. Because he had to fight the committee of having the best scene in the movie, which is, like, the Hawkeye family scene which
Yeah.
is my personal favorite part. That's what I remember
Yeah.
from that movie is that. It's
That's
not
great.
them fighting CGI robots and what's his face, Robert Redford from the fucking office doing this all the time with his name. That's not what I remember. I remember the family scene, how like sweet and humanizing it was for that character that needed that because he spent most of the first movie being a villain for some reason.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
But yeah, we'll see
we'll
how it
see.
evolves.
Yeah.
And I
The
guess
big the
what's the next thing? Is it I mean apart from what if?
okay. Yeah, what
What
if
if
yeah.
but
Yeah, because what if it's gonna be that MCU adjacent thing? Because like
yeah,
it's
yeah.
like in yeah, it
It's
doesn't matter.
MCU, but we're just
But
doing
not
fun stuff with animation,
yeah,
basically,
yeah.
yeah.
And like just like going through the movies. I think it's gonna be a fun thing like going like did you see the
Yeah.
trailer for What If?
No, I have not.
Yeah. Yeah, because some of the things they show are very funny. Because like they already have like I think the first episode is like the first thing to show, and if it's
Hmm.
what if Killmonger saved Tony Stark in the beginning of Iron Man, and that's gonna be one of them, where Killmonger just shows up and saves Tony. I guess he never becomes Iron Man because of that. So what
Yeah.
happens next? So yeah, for me it's like it's funny because they're going through specific Marvel things and
Movies.
going
Right,
yeah
right, right.
movies and
Yeah.
going like hey, what if that happened instead? Like, okay, what if? Let's
Yeah.
go.
That'll be fun. That'll be
I'm
fun.
gonna look at an MCU schedule really quick.
I guess the next movie is Shang-Chi, which is I think it's September. So I suppose
This is
that's the next thing.
okay. Yeah, let's
Because
see.
I think they said that uh
Yeah, the next thing is
Hawkeye is
Shang-Chi.
full.
Yeah, yeah.
Hawkeye is full at some point.
And Miss Marvel is like at the end, tail
At
end of
this,
the
it
year.
was
Yeah,
end of the year.
December. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
Shang-Chi
yeah,
looks good.
I
No
forgot we're
idea
gonna
what it
get.
is, but it looks good.
I forgot that Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 isn't even the last Guardians thing. We're gonna get the holiday special from James Gunn
Yeah.
and Disney Plus as well. I forgot all about that.
2022. Yeah.
Which is like, what an insane guy that James Gunn be like.
Yeah.
Let's do a
I love
holiday
him.
special for Disney Plus, and
That's
all of the actors like,
perfect.
sure. That's how much they
Like
love it.
I hope it's intentionally referencing the Star Wars holiday special and it's
And
that awkward.
I
Like I
hope it is.
hope it has to
It
be.
feels like something James Gunn would do, though,
Yeah.
being like that awkward.
Yeah.
But yeah, next thing is Shang-Chi, September, and then we get Eternals, which is I'm very excited for
Me too.
because That has to be something special. And then 1 month after, we're getting No Way Home.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's finally time for the Multiverse of Madness, which is what everything is building up towards. This podcast is building up towards the Multiverse of Madness.
We're actually variants as well.
Yeah.
Like, that's why the podcast wasn't around for a month. We were fighting our own variants, and then we showed up, but we're not the originals.
Remember Polish Hugo? That was weird. That was a weird variant.
A weird guy. Yeah.
What a weird guy, Polish Hugo. And on the show side, What If August, lately, and 2022 we're gonna get Moon Knight with Oscar
Next
Isaac.
Year, with Oscar Isaac.
We're gonna get She-Hulk, which I'm very much looking, because they described it as a courtroom comedy, because she's a lawyer.
Which I saw that. Yeah.
And what's his face? Mark Ruffalo's gonna be in it as Bruce Banner.
As Smart Hulk.
I don't know. Probably he's gonna be the Smart Hulk. And after that, the holiday special, and then we're gonna end with Secret Invasion.
Right. So next year it's really 3 shows.
Yeah, because it's 3 shows next year.
Because that makes sense. Because I think next year we're also getting Mandalorian season 3, Ahsoka, and something else from Star Wars. I know
the Boba Fett.
The Book of Boba Fett, if I'm not wrong, is December this year.
Okay.
So they should work out.
Also, just quick, we have 3 shows that don't have release dates, so one of them might end up in 2022 as well. And they are Ironheart. Secret Invasion is 22.
We mentioned it. Yeah.
Ironheart, which is the next Iron Man, which is the girl. What's her name? Riri Williams, who's like this teenager who reverse engineers the Iron Man armor and builds her own. She's pretty cool. She's a new character from the same creator of Miles Morales, actually. Who created this
Sarah
character.
Pichelli?
I don't know if Pichelli drew her, but it's written by Bendis. How does it feel that an Italian is a co-creator of Miles Morales?
It's cool.
Pretty cool, yeah.
It's pretty cool.
I remember I followed her on Instagram.
It's the only reason why I know, actually, because she's Italian, and I'm like...
I remember I followed her on Instagram, Sarah Pichelli, because I like her art a lot. I remember a lot of times her stories would just be her walking like in the streets of Italy smoking joints. I was like, sure. She was like getting high, walking down, having fun. I was like, sure, why not? Yeah. Then
weed is illegal in Italy still. So.
Illegal?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's illegal here as well in Denmark, actually. After Ironheart is Armor Wars, which is the War Machine series, where I guess lots of people are gonna get the armor and then gonna fight the Armor Wars, I guess. And then there's the Wakanda series, whatever form that's gonna take.
Yeah.
On the movie side, that's just the shows. On the movie side, after Doctor Strange in May, we're gonna get Thor: Love and Thunder finally.
Fuck yeah.
July next year, we're gonna get Black Panther: Wakanda Forever.
Did you see how big Chris Hemsworth was in that set photo?
That's too big. Much. Yeah, that's too much. Like I was like, oh,
that looks unhealthy.
Yeah, that looks unhealthy. Yeah. I was like, I almost felt sad watching that picture.
Because he's always been big, but he looks proportioned. And in that photo, I don't know if it's modified, if it's like photoshopped or whatever, but he looks way too big.
He looks like that artwork, Rob Liefeld Captain America artwork. You know which one, with the big chest that goes...
Yeah.
That horrible... He looks like that. He's the live action version of that. Well, for me, I feel like I kind of wish they would tone down like the extreme muscles of these characters sometimes.
Yeah, you don't need it.
Yeah. Like, look at Hugh Jackman in the first X-Men. He just looks like a strong dude. And sometimes that's all you need, honestly.
Yeah.
I don't think that it's getting a bit extreme, and I don't know how much they're roiding them up, these actors. And
do you really...
I don't like it.
Like, do you need Kumail to be jacked? It's cool, but do you need that? Or can you just be in shape but not look insanely?
Talking about how he was like, so I can never go back to being how I was before because it was so difficult to get to this point. I'm just gonna keep training for the rest of my life. I'm like, dude, that's so sad.
Jesus, that's... Yeah.
And then you got fucking, what's his name? Republican Chris. What is his name? Chris...
Chris...
Pratt.
Republican Pratt. Chris Pratt, yeah.
Yeah, Chris Pratt. Republican Chris Pratt. Because he gains weight as soon as he's done with
Yeah,
this.
he
Because
doesn't
he's
give a
like
shit. Yeah.
he's like, I like being fat. I enjoy my life. I'm American. So yeah, after Black Panther Wakanda Forever, 2022 is gonna end with The Marvels, which is Monica Rambeau, Miss
Yeah.
Marvel, and Captain Marvel in a movie together.
Hmm.
They've got a new director for this one, which I think is probably I liked Captain Marvel. Like I'm a Captain Marvel defender.
Yeah.
But I do also acknowledge that that movie does have some problems. Brie Larson is not one of them.
No,
I
I
think
love
like
her. I
yeah, I
think
think she's great
she's
in that.
great as the character. She's
Yeah.
fantastic, and she just
Also, like
needs
people who complain
a
about her
movie that.
casting have never read a comic. Like you don't know the character. Why? Like it's so stupid.
No,
Like
no, you just
okay,
don't like
quickly.
Brie Larson because
Yeah.
she called out
Oh my
white
god,
men
dude,
once.
dude.
So
I heard someone say some like I think I read it in the comments somewhere, like maybe on Twitter, maybe on Facebook. I don't know, but someone's like, I don't know. She just comes off as mean to me, and I don't like that. And I really wanted to reply with, "What's your take on Doctor Strange then? Because that guy is
yeah,
mean. He's an
yeah,
asshole,
like
and not like a
Tony
lovable
Stark is a
asshole
piece of
like Tony.
shit.
But Tony
No,
Stark is
yeah,
like
but
lovable
Tony,
because he's funny. But no, Doctor Strange is an asshole through and through. Like
yeah,
he's not even lovable. He's just a douchebag.
yeah,
But we like him.
yeah.
Yeah,
No,
it's just because he's a man.
Islam.
Yeah,
Women have to smile and be nice all the time. Okay,
cutesy.
that's how it works.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I think she's
Uh,
great. I think she embodies the character well, and I think that if they do some cool stuff with her, she can have some really cool movies
okay, 23. Okay, now we're like next year again.
in the
In
future.
2023.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the future. Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, which is next time
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna meet our good friend Jonathan Majors. He's gonna be in that
You
one.
think?
He's
So he's
confirmed.
not going to be in the Multiverse of Madness.
I think the
God,
like
I
the
don't
thing.
know what's happening anymore.
I think he's
So
gonna. Okay, my theory is,
maybe
and
he's in
this
a
is
post-credit scene.
not even. I think he's gonna play. Remember how Thanos was in the first Guardians? He was kind of there,
Yes.
and he's like
Yeah,
controlling the thing. Maybe that's his role here. He's gonna show up,
that's
and be
true.
like,
Yeah.
"Oh, Scott Lang, welcome to the thingy majingy. What are you gonna do here?" And then like that's gonna be like our first real introduction to Kang specifically, and not
That
He
could
Who
work, yeah.
Remains. Sorry. And then May, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, the last one with the current team with James Gunn at the
Hell
helm.
yeah.
And
Give me
they've
that now.
apparently everybody has been crying reading the script because
Mm.
he said it's the most emotional movie he's written because it's the first time he's actually ending something as well.
Mm.
So he has a very tough time letting
Oh,
go of
dude,
these
and like
characters.
the end of Guardians 2 is
Yeah.
one of the most emotional moments in the MCU for
Oh
me.
yeah.
With
It's so sad.
Yondu, like, come
Oh,
on.
it's so he's so good at
So
that.
good. Yeah.
Taste of hers. People hate that joke. People hate the humor in Godzilla. I
I love
love
that
it.
joke.
I
It's
think
so
it's
good.
so funny. Like, oh, his name is Taste of hers. They just keep
Yeah.
repeating. I'm like, yes, this is so funny. And TBA is Fantastic Four and then Blade with Mahershala Ali.
Mm. Right. Oh yeah.
Other
Forgot
TBA
about
movies because we got Blade as well coming in. Because I'm so excited and so fuck it, vampires. I'm like, why not?
that. Sure.
Yeah,
And
like we're gonna do
maybe after that,
Castlevania.
like it could make sense that after that we get the big, I don't know, multiverse thing with Kang again as the big villain and the heroes coming together, and then the thing after could be the introduction of the X-Men, which we would finally get after that. Because I
Mephisto.
know people and Mephisto, yeah, fucking hell. I know people keep talking about the X-Men, but
Yeah.
for me, I think it's going to be at least 2 or 3 years before we see anything that is really the X-Men.
I think the X-Men's gonna be a while, and I want it to be a while as well, because I want to
Me too.
have enough distance from like, because okay, Spider-Man is such a big like character, you
Yeah.
cannot wait, you cannot have
Hmm.
distance from what's his face, Andrew Garfield to this, but here like you kind of have to have distance. Did
Yeah.
you see Andrew Garfield's comments? Like he did an
No.
interview and he was like, okay, he just said, I know a lot of people have been talking about this online. I'm not in the next Spider-Man movie. I know there's a rumor going, I'm not. I swear to you, I'm not in that movie. But do you think it's just gonna be Tobey Maguire then and Tom Holland?
I don't
And
know.
maybe they're just gonna fucking ignore the Andrew Garfield
They're just gonna
movies?
skip Garfield?
Do you think that's gonna? Cause we know it's
I
gonna be
mean,
more. Cause they
sure.
even confirmed now. that Loki series is the catalyst for No Way Home.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it could. I don't know. We'll see. I really have no idea what the Spider-Man like. The Spider-Man movie is the one that I'm the most concerned about because like it
Me
could be
too.
my favorite and it could
And it could be
be
the
the
worst one.
worst because like it could be the movie where Sony is like, oh, I get Spider-Man's ours now.
But I don't think that's again. I know
I
that's
hope
like,
not. I
but
hope
yeah,
not.
but Spider-Man's gonna show up in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, and that's coming after No Way Home.
I guess. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I don't want to speculate too much because
Yeah.
I want to just let
There's
it
no way,
happen.
dude. They built the entire park dedicated to Tom Holland Spider-Man Disney
That's
World.
true.
There's no
That's true.
way
And also,
that.
like, I feel like at this point, Tom Holland has enough traction. Like, even in the last rediscussion of the deals, I think Tom Holland went to Sony and was like, I want to be this character. And I think
Mm,
now he has enough traction where he could go to Sony and be like, I want to be this character in the MCU. I don't want to do it in your universe. Please do
yeah,
and if he went public with it, people would be so on his side
but that's kind
that
of what Disney
Sony
already
wouldn't.
did, though. Like Disney
Yeah,
leaked the fact that Sony said no to the initial deal. And I don't remember
yeah,
who it was. I think it was someone from Sony saying, "Yes, this is how deals get made.
that's true.
This is how deals get made." Like we were gonna say
Yeah,
no regardless, because we're still working out the deal. This
yeah.
wasn't supposed to be public, because
That's
it
the
it felt
unfortunate
from
side
yeah,
of
and it
Disney.
felt for me like as if Sony were like, "Of course we're gonna keep Spider-Man and see this worked for us. Like we're not gonna take him back. That makes no sense from a business
Yeah,
standpoint because they
I
make
hope
so
so.
much money off of it, and they both like benefit from it. Like there's no reason for him to do it." And if so,
Yeah,
look, I don't give a fuck about these companies. If Marvel want to buy some, dude, I don't give a fuck. Like I see
yeah.
people
I just
being
want the
angry
good
about
movies.
monopolies and whatnot. Look, one day, look, I might get run over by a car outside and die. Do I look like I give a fuck what happens to Sony or Disney? Like Disney already owns everything. Like I just want fucking
Yeah,
entertainment. I don't give a shit.
yeah. You're
I'm so I
sounding
know
like
this
Bo
is
Burnham now. They say the water's rising, like I give a shit.
That's just me with companies. I don't care. They can all buy each other.
Yeah,
And Microsoft, go buy Bethesda. I don't give a shit. Like, I just want to enjoy
that's
whatever
true.
it is they throw my way. That's
Yeah,
like,
that's
what
like I only care insofar as it interferes with good entertainment.
yes,
Like
that I
just
agree with.
make it
Yes.
work. Don't be assholes and just
Mm,
make it work.
yeah.
That's what I want.
But I really hope they just skip Andrew Garfield because that would be so funny. It would be
That
so
would be
sad.
funny.
But no,
That'd
but
be very
like they
sad.
did, like Jamie Foxx is in the movie as Electro though.
I guess. But like
But they
again,
did
there was
say, but
some
they did
stuff where
say,
they said, "Oh,
yeah.
this is a leak, but it's not confirmed." But
But
somebody said he would.
he
Somebody,
put it on Instagram. He said he was coming back. But he did
I
say like
don't
he's
know,
not
man.
gonna be blue though. Because I think they're gonna maybe he's a variant,
Maybe
dude.
he's a variant,
Yes,
right?
he's not
So they
playing.
skip that canon, but he is Electro. Oh, okay.
Because they have variants
That
now.
could
They've
work.
introduced that concept. Like
Yeah.
they can
Now
do
they have the excuse for everything. Like,
yeah.
and I
Because
guess,
maybe
oh shit, I guess J. Jonah Jameson is also a variant,
yeah, because he's the James
right?
Jordan Jameson of this universe. Yeah. He's a variant.
Sure. Fuck. Nah, that's cool.
Yeah, because now they have the
That's cool.
excuse of using the same characters. Actors,
That's
sorry.
great. I like
Dude,
this.
Ralph Boner is a variant of
What?
Pietro. Ralph Boner from WandaVision.
Oh.
That's why he looks like him. That's the
Oh
excuse. He's a
shit.
variant.
Fuck.
In this universe, he's Ralph Boner.
He's just
That's why
some
he.
dude.
Because they showed us that they can't have the same face when they showed President
Yeah, yeah,
Loki,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
which is an amazing. It's just a president. Vote for Loki. What the fuck?
Sure. Okay. So we
Okay.
are understanding the ramifications of Loki,
Yeah.
and it's gonna be cool.
Yeah.
I think that does it for
Ooh,
our episode.
that was quite the episode.
I guess we'll call it Black Widow, Loki, and the future of the MCU. That's
Yes.
the new
I,
episode.
I cannot stop the recording because the Streamlabs is acting weird again. I really hope the recording is normal.
Um, as soon as you can, stop it, and I'll just cut it. I'll just cut what's left
Oh,
over.
because we've
Okay.
done the entire episode. You might as well just do the outro now if you want to. As soon as I
Sure.
can do the outro, we can just still talk. Like, hey, listener out there, Maunus, if you're
Okay.
at work, because Maunus asked us to do more episodes because he's been bored at work. He works at the library and he has like put the books back. Like, he was like, "Can't you do another episode of I'm So Tired? Like, I need some
Okay.
content."
Magnus, we're doing this for you.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening.
Yes. Thank you, Maunus.
And if you want to listen to the podcast, you can find it at I'm So Tired at anchor.fm/I'm
Yeah.
So Tired. You can watch us record live at twitch.tv/iDebuy on Twitch. You can find iDebuy's channel on YouTube if you want the video version of the podcast. We don't have a URL yet because we're not as successful as Joe, unfortunately.
Yeah.
It is what it is, but thank you for listening, and say it with me, everybody.
I'm so tired. Oh, by the way, Maunus, I was right. These shows are important for the MCU. Okay, bye everyone.